Marvel. The arrival of the young hacker, the attack on Wanda and Gwen. Chapter 61. Among the alien heroes, Diamond God of War is one of the few who can single-handedly defeat Mogias. His strength needs no further praise. Hearing the news, Jomo noticeably slowed his pace. In his earpiece, the police were still discussing security for the Wakandan king, old Black Panther T'Chaka's visit. Jomo didn't find it odd that rank-and-file officers knew about a state-level security detail. In the eyes of almost everyone on the planet, Wakanda is just a poor, no-name country tucked away in some African backwater, utterly insignificant. Put bluntly, if a few thousand people died there, it wouldn't even make international headlines. Of course, if those thousands weren't people but cats and dogs, it would definitely spark global outrage. A poor little nation with nothing recent happening. If the White House bigwigs bother to send security, that's already generous, forget about confidentiality. Soon Jomo learned there was another reason security was so lax. T'Chaka, who brought his own bodyguards, wasn't heading to the White House but to the United Nations. Right, I remember in Civil War he got blown up because he wanted to end Wakanda's secrecy and join the world. Looks like he's preparing for that now. Here for a survey. Or to give a speech. Jomo had only heard that T'Chaka was coming, not what he planned to do. With those thoughts, Jomo resumed his brisk stride, a smile surfacing on his face. True, but what does that have to do with me? Humming a tune, Jomo walked toward the villa, not the UN building. Diamond God of War is strong, but does he absolutely have to unlock him? Dormammu's mark is gone, life's no longer in danger, why keep getting stronger? If the sky falls, let the Avengers hold it up. If Dormammu shows up, let Doctor Strange negotiate. If Thanos snaps and I die, I'll just resurrect in a few years, like taking a nap. The only threats left are the occasional super-villain and street-level crooks. Against them, Jomo can already crush them with ease. One more Diamond God of War won't make a difference, one less won't make him lose. Heck, even unlocking Thunderbolt isn't necessary. That's why Jomo came back so decisively. As the saying goes, if you don't try, life doesn't require effort. With the danger gone, Jomo's attention shifted to Gwen and Wanda. Imagining their faces and figures, he rated them both a solid, hot. Stretching enthusiastically, Jomo chuckled, next up, conquest. Starting with Gwen. Only once inside the villa did Jomo see the servants tidying up the trashed living room. On the walls he even spotted several blade marks. Ruling out Wanda, who'd left with him, Jomo frowned. Who did this? The servants paused and looked up. Before they could speak, a crisp female voice answered from upstairs. A bunch of magicians. Standing on the second floor, Gwen blushed, unable to meet Jomo's gaze. Magicians. Jomo walked over, thoughts turning to Dormammu's cultists. Those fanatics only listened to Dormammu. So this meant, tisk, Dormammu still wanted him dead. What a petty guy. Won't risk mutual destruction, so he resorts to assassination. HMPH, Dirty Heart 2. Watching Jomo come down the spiral stairs, Wanda quickly added, Spider-Man drove them off. Ignoring her, Jomo sized Gwen up and down. Gwen wore the standard pure college girl look. White sneakers, jeans, and a coffee wool coat over a white long sleeve. At 18, her fresh aura felt almost like the spirit of a forest elf. A glance made you think she had to be either a Hollywood star or a fashion supermodel. In size she was good, yet still a notch below Wanda. In fact, Jomo couldn't think of anyone who could beat Wanda in that department. Her natural gifts were so great that, without surgical help, no one could top her. Still, with those long, straight, slender legs, Gwen more than deserved her hot rating. Blinking, Jomo spotted two pink lunchboxes on a cabinet behind her. Condensation fogged the plastic bag, still hot. In that case, let's eat first. Jomo strode over. Gwen spun around. I didn't make this for you. Not for me. Jomo figured. Tell it to my Thunderbolt, wherever that is. He opened the boxes. Rice in one, red braised pork in the other, piping hot, authentic Chinese home cooking. There was also a small pink pouch printed with cartoon icons inside the bag. Pretty delicate. Jomo smiled, sighed, and opened the pouch. Inside lay a pair of chopsticks and a spoon. He then picked up the spoon, scooped a heaping spoonful of braised pork with a man-eating glare, stared straight into Gwen's eyes, and sent it into his mouth. His posture seemed to say, "I'm eating it, what are you gonna do about it, huh? Childish." With a scold, Gwen folded her arms and turned her head 45 degrees away. Sunlight streamed through the living room's floor-to-ceiling wall, falling on her face. Under its glow her delicate, fair skin seemed to shine, then visibly reddened. Chin lifted, Gwen softened her tone and muttered, "Still, if you want to eat, it's not like you can't." Long after the words fell she still got no reply. Her curiosity about, what's his reaction, grew stronger. On the sly, Gwen shifted her gaze. One look and she pouted, disappointed, dropping her hands. Down the empty corridor a door stood open. Jomo was gone. Gnashing her teeth, Gwen marched in with tiny fists clenched. Seeing Jomo eating while watching TV, her first line was the height of civility. "You're the most shameless person I've ever met. You're the most shameless person I've ever met." Jomo gave her a bland glance and looked back at the screen. "If you want to curse me, get in line." At that, Gwen's breathing quickened. Through gritted teeth she said, "Why you just." After several tries she managed, "What did you just say?" Pretty delicate. This time Jomo didn't even look. Now Gwen's face burned. She couldn't get out. "Who did you say you were going to conquer?" No matter how she tried, she could only curse Jomo's shamelessness again and again in her heart. The servants in the living room couldn't hear Jomo's whisper. Gwen's hearing wasn't daredevil level, yet she still caught the words. His sentence, how was it merely shameless? It was downright shameless. Conquer me. Tui. Shameless wretch. Still, after watching Jomo a while, Gwen walked over and sat on the bed, casually, yet deliberately, kicking the floor sitting Jomo with her foot and whispered, "What are you doing?" "Watching United Nations news." Jomo sounded annoyed. The girl would know if she just looked at the screen. Dense much. Propping her hands on the bed, Gwen tilted her head lazily. Both her voice and posture were cute. "What's so interesting about United Nations news? King T'Chaka of Wakanda. Never heard of him. But in this day and age there's still an absolute monarch. Amazing." Jomo suddenly realized, this girl talks even more than I do. As expected, the redder the outfit, the chattier the wearer. By then Jomo had wolfed down his food. Wiping his mouth, he stood up. Seeing that, Gwen rose instinctively. "Looks like you're heading out." Jomo nodded, eyes fixed on the TV, a grin tugging at his lips. "I'm going to the United Nations." "What for?" Gwen asked absently, disappointed as she stared at the empty lunchbox in Jomo's hand. She'd wanted to hear his verdict on her cooking, but now it seemed she wouldn't. She'd specially learned Chinese cuisine for this. Jomo walked over, his figure blotting out the sun. Shadow enveloped Gwen. "To the United Nations." He pressed the lunchbox back into Gwen's hands and looked straight into her eyes. Their hands touched. Gwen gazed up in a daze, the sudden warmth of his fingers making her lose herself for a moment. Deliberately, Jomo opened his mouth only a crack and mumbled. "To scan their QR codes." Gwen snapped back to her senses, turned away in disgust, and inwardly screamed, "Have some class." A life or death crisis still loomed. Jomo had no idea whether Dormammu's magic included any bizarre killing methods. If it did, and the sorcerer taught them to his cultists, Jomo would be in danger, so for safety's sake he had to keep getting stronger. Bags in hand, Jomo and Gwen headed out the door one after another. Before leaving, Jomo paused, turned, and eyed the sword marks on the wall, resolve hardening in his heart. He had to scrunch that sinister, shameless fool Dormammu into a ball and crush him to bits. But before that, he needed to sneak into the United Nations building with the bombs he'd made from Shapeshifter and, while T'Chaka wasn't looking, blow him sky high. The thought of Dormammu filled Jomo with drive. "I hate despicable villains like you most, only good for ambushes and assassinations." Jomo ground his teeth and added, "I'll find a way to kill you for sure." Rhino Man went on a rampage because he'd robbed a bank and the police caught him. Not long after you left, the two late officers finally showed up. Inside Avengers Tower, Pepper's gaze flicked between the tablet in her hands and Stark, her expression complicated as she recounted the whole story. The facts were so absurd she could hardly believe them herself. Stark had one foot propped on the sofa, nursing a drink in silence, saying nothing. Pepper looked worriedly at his other arm. Tony, Friday told me the bones in your arm are fractured, you need to go to the hospital. Stark took a deep breath, but still couldn't suppress the agitation inside him. He turned to stare out the window, his voice edged with impatience despite his effort to stay calm. I'm beta testing the Mark 8's medical system. Yes, Stark was still wearing the armor even now. After taking a car Rhino Man had hurled at him, Stark instinctively threw up an arm to block, the limb fractured and several ribs cracked. Everything he did afterward was only possible because the Mark 8 had pumped him full of adrenaline. Now that the drug had worn off, he was drinking to blunt the pain. Even so, he still had zero intention of seeing a doctor. Worry flooded from her eyes to her brow as Pepper gazed at him, anxiety written across her face. She didn't get it, they'd faced plenty of super villains before, so why had today's Stark come back like this? Tony's current brittleness and volatility felt worse than when he'd been dying of palladium poisoning, she'd never seen him like this. Remembering the hallucination Stark had mentioned, Pepper's brows drew tight. She was sure Tony's anxiety was tied to that vision, yet she couldn't fathom what he'd seen that could drive him to such desperation. The nickname, Little Pepper, wasn't for nothing. After a moment's thought she strode off decisively, heels clicking against the floor. Tony, I don't care what you're thinking, but the doctor will be here any minute. And if he arrives and you refuse to cooperate. Pepper paused, extending a warning finger with dead seriousness. She didn't finish the sentence, the threat hung naked in the air. Stark blinked, watched her retreating figure, and took another swig with a wry smile. A moment later Fury strolled in, trademark black trench coat flaring behind him. That woman's as fiery as chili oil. Stark pulled his gaze back, displeased, and slumped deeper into the sofa. Fury, never standing on ceremony, kept walking. Besides her, Tony, I doubt anyone on Earth can give you orders. If you're the doctor, Pepper called. Stark, still staring out the window, took a sour gulp. I'll sue you for practicing without a license. Fury chuckled. Depends on whether my medicine works. Stark regarded him, half wary, half curious. Did he actually know what he needed? Vibranium. The moment Fury uttered the word, Stark's face visibly jolted. In an instant his gloom vanished, he snapped upright and strode to the workbench with CEO-level decisiveness. How much? Robotic arms peeled the armor off him as he moved. Fury turned to face him. It's only an unconfirmed rumor, so, no charge. No Wakanda. Word from the black market says someone once spotted vibranium there. With the armor gone, Stark hurried back, forgetting even his beer. He locked eyes with Fury, desperation replaced by hope. So I'm taking a trip to Wakanda. Vibranium, exactly the prescription Stark needed. His anxiety came from knowing Earth, New York, was in danger and feeling powerless to stop it. His current nanotech research had hit a wall. Vibranium could fill the gap perfectly. Like Steve's shield forged by his father, indestructible, able to absorb and release energy, Stark's armor would become unstoppable. And that was just the start. The super genius was sure he could turn vibranium into pure art. With it his combat power would jump one, maybe several, tiers. Right now the metal felt more important than his own life. Seeing the light in Stark's eyes, Fury felt a twinge of guilt. It's still just an unverified rumor. I'll verify it myself. Stark, barely containing his glee, headed for the bench. No need to guess, he was ready to leave for Wakanda that instant. Fury drew a breath. No need, their king is already in New York. Stark spun around, stunned. Fury went on. T'Chaka, king of Wakanda, wants to open his nation to the world. It's a good chance to make contact. Stark's mouth opened in delight, but Fury cut him off, voice sharper. Not you. I've already sent someone. I'll update you when there's news. With that, Fury turned to leave, tossing back. If it works, I promise you'll be first in line for the vibranium. A grin reclaimed his face. Watching Fury's retreating figure, Stark quickly wiped the smile away. Should I have said thank you? Fury's steps paused. Stark stammered, after all, you helped me. Fury glanced back, eyeing Stark with disgust as though looking at a sissy. Come on, Tony, we're friends. Not boyfriend and boyfriend. Stark burst into laughter, fell silent for 2 seconds, then raised his middle finger. Well then, fool you. Before vanishing around the corner, Fury returned the gesture. Fool you too. Back on the sofa, Stark felt no ache in his back, no pain in his legs. He beamed so hard he figured even a lottery winner couldn't feel half this good. Vibranium. That was vibranium. With it, he'd never again taste powerlessness or humiliation, like being reborn. Friends. Murmuring the word, Stark smiled as crow's feet spread from his eyes. He'd always thought he could handle everything alone, nearly forgetting he still had friends. Vibranium plus friends soothed the anxiety in Stark's heart in an instant. The very next second, as if summoned, some old-timer's voice crackled through the comms. Tony, you big boss ought to pay me some overtime. Captain America Steve sipped coffee under a sun hat, blending into the crowd. At the UN building, Jomo and Gwen stepped inside together. Security was basic, but for Shapeshifter's handiwork it was nothing. Scanners and gates sensed nothing odd in the bags. Inside the lobby, marble tiles stretched underfoot and everyone looked like suit and tie elites. Majestic Roman columns soared, an invisible solemnity hovered, broken only by the click of leather and high heels, making one instinctively soften one's voice. For a moment Jomo stared, transfixed. Looking at them, I suddenly feel this fierce urge to work seriously. And it's. His eyes tracked a passing elite. Very strong. Gwen's eyes lit. He wanted to work seriously. However, he exhaled, freed a hand, and patted his chest in relief. Good thing I possess iron willpower, I crushed that desire. Gwen. So your willpower's all spent on the wrong things. Gwen approached the front desk politely. Hi, we're looking for King T'Chaka of Wakanda, heard he's here. Jomo caught up. The receptionist looked at Gwen, then at Jomo, and beamed. Such a sweet young couple. No, you're early. She pointed across the street. The Wakandan delegation is staying at that luxury hotel. Her smile flipped to disgust. God knows how they bled their people to afford it. But I'm sure. Instantly smiling again, she eyed the two big bundles in Jomo's arms. African kids will love the books and clothes you brought. African tyrants wouldn't care about these things, she added silently. Clearly she took them for college kids doing charity for African children. Jomo hugged the bundles and vowed solemnly, don't worry, ma'am, if I get the chance, every African kid will get a whole bundle. The receptionist sniffed, touched. Such a good kid. Outside the UN, heading for the hotel, Jomo pulled out his phone and connected to every nearby Wi-Fi. Using a virus Shapeshifter had planted earlier, he hijacked every surrounding camera. Only then did he quietly reach into his backpack and arm the two big packs of C4. Wait here. With that, he walked into the hotel. Gwen really stayed put, leaning against a lamppost, arms folded, waiting silently. Of course she knew whatever Jomo was up to was no good. Yet she'd still come. Simple. Trust. The guy had never killed an innocent. Gwen trusted him at least that far. A few minutes later, both Gwen and Steve, still on lookout, heard an explosion from inside the hotel. On the blast floor every window blew out. Watching the out-of-shape old Black Panther, four-armed overlord cracked his four fists and grinned. Looks like I'll have to smash it to get what I want. Yeah, this is gonna hurt. The female royal guards leveled their spears, eyes fixed on the four-armed overlord. T'Chaka studied the four-armed overlord with a grim face, trying to guess the intruder's motive. Political assassination. Or had some tribe sent an assassin to start a revolt? Wakanda had almost no contact with the outside world, so T'Chaka focused his search inward. Yet no matter how he racked his brain, he couldn't find a reason. He got along with every tribe. So where had this guy come from, the one who blew the door open, teleported in, and then turned into a red hulking brute? The explosion left Jomo speechless. Of the two silhouettes that lit up in his mind, only the Diamond God of War had responded. Evil Explosive Frog stayed dark. Recalling Evil Explosive Frog's traits, Jomo figured he'd probably have to eat vibranium to gain any experience. You should tell us your purpose first. The bald woman spoke, sidestepping to shield T'Chaka. That way we might still talk. Talk? My ass. The four-armed overlord charged. Let the fierce bean steam begin. The guards rushed to meet him. Their spears were forged of vibranium, unbreakable and lethally sharp. Sadly, Brawls like this come down to raw strength. No sooner had they formed a ring around the four-armed overlord than he grabbed the nearest spearhead. Because the woman held on so tightly, she was lifted along with it and slammed to the floor. When the rest tried to help, the remaining three hands seized their spears and flung them down together. Finally he spun, hurling all four women into the adjacent wall. The impact was so great the wall cracked. Jomo's goal achieved. The women slid to the ground dazed, blood at their lips, combat effectiveness lost. Seeing their stubborn attempts to rise, T'Chaka stepped forward. Enough. Withdraw. This is no longer your fight. At his words they stopped trying, and T'Chaka walked straight up to the four-armed overlord, craning his neck to meet those red eyes. Screw etiquette, the four-armed overlord simply punched the head that only reached his waist. Bang! The blow landed, purple ripples spread across the vibranium armor, then vanished. Clearly, T'Chaka was completely unfazed, still standing rock steady. Calmly he said, "You cannot harm me." The four-armed overlord grinned. "Of course I know, vibranium, right?" With that he delivered a thunderous right hook to T'Chaka's head. T'Chaka back-flipped to bleed off the force, landing in his signature pose. The armor rippled again, absorbing the kinetic energy. He could have taken the punch bare, but smart money says don't. Even with 97% of the power absorbed, the leftover sting still smarted a little. He grew more puzzled. When had he ever offended a mutant from New York? The four-armed overlord kept grinning at him. In a way, the clumsy watch's method of unlocking alien heroes was also perverse. No need to kill, defeat, or even gain the upper hand, just accumulate combat experience. The atmosphere shifted. T'Chaka rose with a regal aura, as though monarch of all below. It seems I'll need another way to make you state your purpose. He sprinted forward and sprang high, fingers extended into claws. Bang! The four-armed overlord swung, an explosion boomed, the street descended into chaos, memories of 9/11 sent pedestrians fleeing faster. Below, Gwen's composure cracked, her arms dropped as she stared up at that floor. Steve didn't hesitate, sprinting while directing the crowd to evacuate. Stark's worried voice crackled through the earpiece. "What's happening, Steve?" Steve scanned the upper floors of the hotel, panting. "Explosion here, Tony." "What?" Stark exclaimed, eyes wide. "An explosion this close to the United Nations." Collecting himself, Stark said grimly, "The King of Wakanda is here, you know this has to be about vibranium." The hotel entrance was jammed with fleeing guests. Steve veered toward the rear exit. Obviously. Passing a car, he pulled his vibranium shield from beneath it and gripped it tight. The elevators were out of the question. Choked with panic, relying on his phenomenal conditioning, Steve raced up floor after floor of stairs. Calming down and following a new line of thought, Stark sent a reassuring message. "I think the situation isn't as bad as we feared. Wakanda might have weapons or other gear made of vibranium, just like you. If the bomber wants to steal vibranium from them, it won't be easy. Besides, if they already have a way to deal with vibranium, they wouldn't bother with bombs, would they, Steve?" Sweat dripped from his forehead as Steve panted hard. He craned his neck to peer up an endless stairwell and said helplessly, "I've never been fond of PT." Gritting his teeth, he kept climbing. "Reminds me of my army days. I mean, I'm already discharged." Stark teased him, his tone noticeably lighter than before. A science guy through and through, Stark's logic spoke for itself. Fury had barely finished mentioning T'Chaka and vibranium when the hotel Stark was staying in blew up, practically announcing that Wakanda and vibranium were connected. In a place like this, anyone who openly uses bombs as a weapon is either crazy or just not that strong. T'Chaka is, after all, a head of state. Stark figured the king's bodyguards could handle a criminal like that. Better yet, what if, just as he imagined, Wakandans took down the culprit with vibranium weapons? Because, let's face it, that's vibranium, the hardest substance on Earth, maybe even in the universe. With that stuff on your side, Stark couldn't see how you could lose. Chatting with Stark the whole way, Steve sprinted past 60 floors and finally reached the target level. The instant his feet hit the corridor, he started scanning for the right room. A loud bang rang out. Stark's body tensed instantly. "Tell me what happened, are you okay?" Steve stared, dumbstruck, at the old Black Panther flipping backward through a shattered wall. Eyeing the purple ripples across the armor, he said, "I'm fine. But Tony, your guess just came true. I'm looking at a full suit of armor made entirely of vibranium." With that, the old Black Panther sprang back into the room. Hearing this, Stark's face flushed crimson. Forgetting the doctor bandaging his arm, he leapt up in excitement. What? A complete vibranium armor. He was losing it. Stark was so pumped he couldn't stay calm anymore. This was exactly what he'd been after. So thrilled he ignored the pain, Stark barely kept his words straight. "Listen, Steve, after he subdues the bomber, you have to make contact. Just fool it." Stark slapped his forehead, realizing he was too excited to speak properly. "You know, Stark Industries, Iron Man, whatever. I get it, Tony," Steve said quietly. Unlike Stark's excitement, Steve, still on the battlefield, stayed tense, tiptoeing toward the room. Yet the tension had eased, you could tell just from how he held his shield. Just as Stark had said, with vibranium backing them, professional soldiers could easily defeat criminals. Steve knew better than anyone what vibranium could do in a fight. And this was a whole armor forged from the stuff. Steve couldn't think of a single superhuman he knew who could beat full vibranium armor. None. He was even thinking that, if possible, they should recruit the armor's owner into the Avengers. The newcomer would be their heavy hitter. Steve's caution now came more from fear of the unknown. He never imagined technology had advanced this far. And apparently it came from some obscure African nation that exceeded Steve's worldview. In his army days, slurs like that were still common. Step. Reaching the broken wall, he set one foot down, and the scene ahead snapped into view. Instantly, Steve's body went rigid. The caution and slight ease on his face vanished, replaced by sheer terror, no, horror. His pupils shrank, cold sweat drenched his back. What he saw was. Steve screamed silently in shock. How could this be possible? Steve saw the ghostly shadow turn into a green diamond man the instant the old Black Panther pounced. As the old Black Panther clawed at the shadow, the Diamond God of War seized both of his arms in one move. No matter how the old Black Panther struggled, he couldn't pull free. What tremendous strength! T'Chaka muttered inwardly. At this instant his doubts peaked. First a red giant, then a ghostly shadow, now a green diamond man. What background could this mysterious assassin possibly have? Clearly, though, this was no time for reflection. With both arms pinned, T'Chaka could still spring up and kick the opponent's chest to propel himself away. But he had a far better option. Vibranium armor rippled upward, purple waves flooding toward his hands. Tilting his head, T'Chaka spoke with brazen arrogance. "Now feel the force you gave me earlier." All the energy absorbed from the earlier explosion, four-armed overlord punches, and the entire fight would erupt right now. Wakandan tech, it turned out, gave no one time to react. The instant T'Chaka's words ended, the wrist of the vibranium armor blazed with dazzling violet light, overexposing the room like an electromagnetic cannon firing. At that moment Steve's heart tightened. He knew vibranium's properties, at such close range that reaction meant. He mentally pronounced the Green Diamond Man dead, yet feared he himself might be caught in the blast. Saving the Diamond Man was impossible. In that split second Steve could only raise his shield to protect himself. The shield had barely lifted when the blinding violet flash vanished without harming anyone. Steve froze, amazed at how skillfully the vibranium armor's wielder had controlled the discharge. Then his gradually calming heart lurched wildly, pounding faster and faster. Its rhythm escalated as if sending an SOS, urging him to flee. Because the Diamond God of War before the old Black Panther stood unharmed. And his green body flashed with the same hue. Exactly like Steve's breath caught, every hair bristling. The glow of vibranium absorbing energy. Identical in every way save for color. Vibranium could store and release force, yet the Diamond Man had absorbed every jewel the armor had just unleashed. Steve's mind screamed. Impossible. The man wasn't even vibranium. How had he done it? Without further ado, the Diamond God of War freed one hand and smashed a fist into the old Black Panther's face. Taking the punch as his price, T'Chaka flipped backward to open distance. As the saying goes, since I'm here I might as well earn evil explosive frogs XP, it's still zero. The Diamond Man's arm morphed into a machine gun, spraying diamond dart bullets that sent T'Chaka scrambling for cover. Watching, Steve still hadn't recovered his wits. This green diamond guy seemed to be a mutant. No, what mutant could go toe-to-toe with vibranium? At that moment Stark's anxious voice crackled through the earpiece, snapping Steve back. What's happening, Steve? Steve drew a deep breath and tightened his grip on the shield. A mysterious mutant is beating up the vibranium armor. After a pause he added, he can absorb energy too. Predictably, Stark shrieked, voice almost breaking. What? On the other end Stark went white, eyes bulging as if he'd seen a ghost. He leapt onto a table, clutching the phone like a debt collector. In his mind the vibranium armor should have been invincible. How could a mutant be thrashing it? But Steve had no time to explain. Raising his shield he charged in, leaving only the crucial words, he absorbs energy too. The statement hit Stark like thunder. He froze stock still. Sensing Steve's rush, the Diamond God of War swung his arm and sprayed a burst. Steve reflexively blocked with his shield. Seconds later the diamond darts clattered down. Steve cautiously lowered the shield, and met the Diamond Warrior's sidelong gaze. Just as he prepared to move, he noticed a green surge below. Before he could look, a diamond wall shot up, sealing the battlefield and barring his path. Steve stepped back, stunned. The wall spanned the entire room, over 100 meters, completely blocked. He could understand diamond darts, but a solid wall. Even dismantling the man wouldn't yield enough material. Left with no choice, Steve used his shield as a pick and began hacking a passage. T'Chaka, the main combatant, was equally dumbfounded. The Diamond Man seemed to have infinite regeneration. Dodging gunfire, he scrambled around the room. Occasionally he fired back, but the Diamond God of War formed a shield arm and deflected every shot. T'Chaka deliberately avoided the downed guards to keep them safe. Yet in the heat of escape he still passed close to them several times. The only good news, the Diamond Warrior never harmed the women. The heart-shaped herb granted T'Chaka superhuman prowess, but he was old. Under Pepper's deathbed order, several private doctors seized Stark the moment he tried to leave. Some even knelt to grip his calves in a scene worthy of, "Your Majesty, please stay." Already frantic, Stark jittered like an ant on a hot pan. He couldn't grasp how a mutant had conjured a wall that sealed a room. That luxury hotel, 7-star suites of at least 300 square meters and 5-meter ceilings, needed vast material to wall off the living room. How had a single diamond mutant produced a wall several times his own volume? It was like an 8-year-old unzipping to reveal a 500-kilo giant, utterly impossible. With no other option Stark pinned his hopes on Steve. Friday couldn't hack the hotel's cameras. How is it? Stark croaked. The super soldier serum showed its worth. Steve soon carved a tunnel barely wide enough to crawl through. Below him the diamond still bulked, but above it cracks let him glimpse inside. Hearing Steve's digging stop, Stark asked again. After 2 seconds Steve answered truthfully. The mutant just pulled an anchor out of his other hand. About the size of a heavy truck. Stark blinked blankly, picturing a heavy truck. Gathering his calm he asked, how tall is he? Steve sized him up. My build, maybe a bit taller. At that Stark's heart nearly leapt from his chest. Unable to stay composed, eyes bulging, he roared into the phone. Then what the hell do you mean by? He pulled a heavy truck-sized anchor out of his other hand. Steve was sure he wasn't mistaken. That huge anchor was drawn out of the Diamond God of War's hand. He pulled off one hand with the other. During the process of tearing it off, that hand turned into an anchor, and its volume was constantly expanding. At the same time, the wrist originally connected to the arm was infinitely stretched, pulling out a long chain. Go talk to my Da-Yun. Immediately afterwards, Steve saw that the Diamond Man didn't know where he got the strength, but he easily threw the anchor out. The luxurious and spacious room seemed narrow at this moment. The anchor was really like a heavy truck speeding towards him. It hit old Black Panther in midair as he pounced from one pillar to another, knocking him to the ground. See Lala. His pupils shrank, and Steve saw that the Diamond God of War had retrieved the chain and the anchor together. The sun shone down again, and the room was white again. Even Steve couldn't help but curse. This is completely unreasonable. Stark hurriedly asked, what's unreasonable? What happened again? Seeing the Diamond God of War stride towards old Black Panther, Steve had no interest in answering Stark's questions at this time, and anxiously accelerated his excavation. He had no doubt that old Black Panther might be killed by the Diamond Man. He had to stop it all. Sweat kept pouring down his forehead, and Steve's anxious eyes kept darting between the Diamond God of War in his hand. The next moment, his heart stopped. The Diamond God of War really came to old Black Panther as he had expected. After squatting down, the Diamond God of War grabbed old Black Panther's chest with one hand and lifted his head. He clenched his other fist, and Steve clearly saw a thick layer of diamond crystals covering his tiger's mouth. The person has already fainted, and he still wants to continue attacking. If this isn't killing someone, then what is it? It was almost like Steve was proving that he guessed right. With a muffled bang, the Diamond God of War punched old Black Panther in the face. As expected, the vibranium was intact, and the Diamond God of War's tiger's mouth crystals were all shattered. Following the same pattern, the Diamond God of War clenched his fist again and pulled it back, and a thick layer of crystals covered his tiger's mouth again. Bang! The same punch, the same ending, and the same lack of stopping. Bang! Bang! Several loud muffled sounds were like some kind of signal, making Steve, who was already anxious, dig even harder. He couldn't watch someone die in front of him. He had already dug a hole, and his upper body could even stick out. But the problem is, he can't get through. His butt is too perky. Digging at the diamond wall below, Steve felt like he had returned to the World War II battlefield and become a soldier digging trenches under enemy fire. Facing Stark's constant questioning, Steve briefly described the current situation in an almost roaring tone. This time, Stark wasn't so anxious. Not only that, but he also sent a comforting smile. Steve, you know that vibranium is the hardest substance. The power will also be absorbed by vibranium, that guy will be fine. That's what he said, and that's what Steve thought, but he glanced at the Diamond God of War from time to time, and the urgency in his heart was constantly rising. He couldn't say why. He knew it was armor made of vibranium, but he could still feel the dangerous aura emanating from the Diamond God of War, and it was getting stronger and stronger. Along the way, Steve certainly wouldn't be stupid enough not to shout. But no matter what he said or shouted, he couldn't attract the Diamond God of War's attention, just like the guard who was nailed to the wall by a large U-shaped diamond dart. Ignoring their cries, roars, and even pleas for mercy. Under the sunlight, the Diamond God of War's sturdy body was silent, only throwing punches. Bang, 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 punch after punch, without stopping. If Jomo hadn't watched Avengers 4, he would have thought that vibranium was indestructible. But, he had seen it. He understood that the vibranium shield would be cut to pieces. Finally, a sincere smile bloomed on Steve's face. He finally crawled out of that small hole. Just as he crawled in and landed, he heard a terrified sound. Crack. Take a closer look. The vibranium helmet was shattered, revealing a corner of T'Chaka's face inside. Seeing this scene, Steve didn't even react, with that sincere smile still on his face. Bang. Until the Diamond God of War punched down again. Crack. The vibranium helmet was completely shattered, turning into pieces and falling on the ground, also revealing T'Chaka's already unconscious head. The body's belated reaction arrived, the smile on Steve's face suddenly froze, and the whole person was stunned in place, muttering in a daze. How is this possible? The vibranium armor was actually shattered by him. On the other side, Stark, who had just been forced back down by the doctors, jumped up again when he heard this murmur, and let out a pig-like scream. What? With the goal achieved, the Diamond God of War pinched a piece of vibranium with one hand, and released old Black Panther with the other. Looking at the fragment, Jomo complained in his heart, "Are you going to eat this thing to be activated?" After confirming again that the evil explosive frog's experience points were still 0, Jomo sighed helplessly in his heart. Well, how does that sentence go? Since I'm already here. Immediately, when Steve's shock that vibranium could be shattered was raging in his mind. He saw it. The Diamond God of War opened his mouth and slowly put the piece of vibranium in his hand into his mouth. Steve, who was about to take action, instantly widened his eyes to the maximum. With a crack, the Diamond God of War actually crushed the vibranium fragment, and then swallowed it. His scalp was tingling. Steve's body was like a hedgehog with exploded fur, and all the hairs on his body stood on end in an instant. No, it's not, bro. This is vibranium. The hardest substance in the world. How could you? How could you crush it and swallow it? Like a soulless shell, seeing the unconscious T'Chaka and confirming that the Diamond God of War had no intention of continuing to hurt him, Steve walked over blankly. On the way, Steve didn't forget to synchronize this with Stark. Tony, he crushed the vibranium fragments and swallowed them. Stark, who was already freaking out because of the news that the vibranium had been shattered, froze on the spot when he heard this sentence, and his brain crashed instantly. No. No. What do you mean he crushed the vibranium and swallowed it? Stark was stunned for a long time and didn't understand what this sentence meant. Was Steve speaking English? Vibranium, Stark muttered to himself in a daze, the hardest known substance in the universe. Using it to make a set of armor, the improvement in combat power can be described in one simple word: invincible. Then, what do you mean by shattering the vibranium armor, then crushing the fragments, and then swallowing them? They were all English, and Stark understood every word. But why? Stark didn't understand. After combining them together, he couldn't understand at all. Eating vibranium. Is this something a carbon-based life form can do? Crunch, crunch. After a few bites, the evil explosive frog's experience points really soared. The Diamond God of War continued to eat. Although this thing was crunchy, Jomo couldn't really say it tasted like chicken. Eating this thing, tastes like eating steel. Looking at Steve, who was walking over with a look of astonishment, the Diamond God of War enthusiastically handed out a small piece. Still deliberately changing his voice, the Diamond God of War said, "Want a piece?" Steve shook his head blankly, subconsciously took a step back, and waved his hand to refuse. No, thank you. As one piece after another went down, Jomo sighed heavily again in his heart when he found that the evil explosive frog's experience value had reached 50% and was not moving. It seems that vibranium can only be eaten to 50%, and the rest has to be eaten with something else strange. Alright. The Diamond God of War stood up, slightly regretful about Steve's refusal. After all, this thing is so unpalatable, I can't be the only one eating it. But, if Steve eats it, it might break his teeth. Jomo added in his heart. After thinking about it, he felt that would be even better. Can you explain your identity to me? Steve asked cautiously. The Diamond God of War turned his head, with a calm face. As you can see, I am Black Panther. Steve, who heard this title for the first time, looked up and down at the Diamond God of War again. Black Panther. You don't match either of those. The Diamond God of War was stunned for a moment, then clenched his fist resentfully. It seems my disguise has been discovered by you. Steve. It's not, bro. Can this be considered a disguise? Now that the goal has been completely achieved, there is no need to stay. Steve was about to continue talking to the other party when he saw the Diamond God of War jump down through the broken window. He hurriedly chased after him and looked down. He saw the Diamond God of War sliding down the diamond crystal slide on a diamond skateboard. The moment he reached the ground, the Diamond God of War switched to shadow, and his body disappeared after becoming virtual. This is pretty cool. Steve turned to look at T'Chaka. He could see that T'Chaka was still breathing and his life was not in danger, which made Steve even more puzzled. The other party came mysteriously, beat up T'Chaka and then left. Could this be the way Africans greet each other? Looking around the messy room, Steve felt that there were clues that could prove the other party's identity. Carrying the diamond fragments, he returned to Avengers Tower. That you know whose body is made up of this stuff. Steve handed the fragment to Stark. Stark walked quickly to the workbench and asked Friday to test it. Friday, check out what this guy is. High-tech scanning was carried out, and the results came out in a short while. Sir, according to the analysis results, I can be sure that this is a silicon-based life form. Stark, who was waiting with his arms folded, felt like he had been struck by lightning when he received the result. What do you mean a silicon-based life form? After shouting this out with wide eyes and being stunned for a while, Stark suddenly laughed. So, this is really not something a carbon-based creature can do. But a silicon-based creature. As he laughed, his expression turned serious. Another meaning of silicon-based life form is that the thing is not human. Not even a mutant. Thus, Jomo, who returned to the villa, saw Stark sitting in the living room at a glance. Those eyes belonging to Iron Man were staring straight at him. The police band switched to a news station. Listening to the anchors praise the Diamond God of War, Jomo couldn't hide his grin. The Diamond God of War is freaking awesome, man. Through the floor-to-ceiling window he met Stark's razor-sharp gaze on the sofa. Hear about the Diamond God of War. Uh-oh, don't tell me he wants me to pay for the explosion. No way. Dude's got one arm in plaster and he's still working. Mentally grumbling, Jomo stepped inside. Sure enough, Stark rose solemnly and opened with the Diamond God of War. Are you the Diamond Man? Stark's grave face made Jomo roll his eyes inwardly again. I'm the freaking Diamond God of War. I just came back from Hot Pot. What Diamond Man? He ambled to the sofa, hands in pockets, and sprawled, ready this time. Stark couldn't bluff him. The line seemed to work. Stark narrowed his eyes, reassessing him. Forget it. With a wave Stark sat down, defeated. Without solid proof he couldn't pierce the veil. Before Jomo could ask, Stark leaned forward and stated his purpose. Jomo watched the man on the sofa lean in, eyes lighting up. Mr. Key, I figure you've got some kind of evolutionary ability. Afraid Jomo would deny it, Stark hurried louder, don't get me wrong. His eyes shone brighter, hope all over his face. Can you evolve some power from me? I'm betting it'll be intelligence-based. He had confidence in that. Jomo meant to play dumb, but the question stumped him. As Marvel's premier super genius, Stark should be the perfect trigger for Little Soldier, so why the silence? They'd met plenty of times, Little Soldier never reacted. Recalling that evil explosive frog needed weird food for XP, Jomo worried Little Soldier might require Stark's lectures to activate. Or maybe someone else, say, that brainy raccoon in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Or a gem of wisdom. He still hadn't figured it out. Whatever theories he had, he'd never share his secret. Mr. Stark, I don't follow. Jomo shrugged, bewildered. I'm just an ordinary guy. You must have been moved by my iron will and spent a fortune housing me, right? Casually shifting topics, he put on a righteous face. But I must warn you, Mr. Stark. Stark rolled his eyes, resting his good arm on the sofa back. You can't buy a man with iron will. He turned away sighing, how could this kid act so much? The light gone from his eyes, Stark toyed with cotton poking from the torn sofa. Like chatting with a friend, he said helplessly, you should be more outgoing. The moment he said it he regretted it. He'd spoken without thinking, how was this kid ever introverted? He hastily added, I mean, people need friends, need to talk. If you like, you can tell me stuff, life stories, recent fun, maybe even secrets. At secrets, his eyes glinted again. You're young, easily fooled. What beats having Stark's protection? Seeing Jomo lower his head in thought, Stark rejoiced inwardly. Looks like I'm earning his trust. Jomo jerked his head up. Mr. Stark, you're right. You know what? I really envy you outgoing folks. Instantly Stark's heart sank. He turned away again. The brat's focusing on the wrong thing. I meant talk, trust, secrets. Who cares about outgoing or not? Take me. Jomo looked down, picking his fingers. I'm super introverted. The other day at the supermarket, afraid to bother the cashier, I said nothing and just slipped away. Stark's eye twitched. He spun round, mouth agape but speechless. Watching the kid's bashful look, Stark felt blood rising. That's not introversion, that's straight up theft. Since when is shoplifting called being shy? Forget it, forget it. Realizing another failed chat, Stark stood and straightened his suit, ready to leave. He knew trust takes time, no rush. Keep the connection alive and it'll happen sooner or later. Watching Stark one-hand his jacket, Jomo rose and pointed at the plaster arm. Mr. Stark, your hand. Catching the concern on Jomo's face, Stark finally smiled, showing the cast. Bone fracture, Pepper dragged in a doctor and forced this on me. Kid's got a heart, he worries about me. The thought died as Jomo blurted, no. I mean, Jomo's eyes sparkled. Since the bones are broken, why not just chop the whole arm off? Stark stared like he'd seen a ghost. Yongguo flashing through his mind, Jomo waved excitedly. Hack it off and wield a sword with the other, the heavier the better. Oh, and raise a giant eagle, big enough to fly you around. You'd be a legendary hero. Jaw-dropping then closing, Stark met Jomo's utterly serious gaze and found zero words. A minor forearm fracture and you want to amputate my whole arm. How'd I even reply to that? Forget it, I've got stuff to do, gotta go. Stark left with a wave. Jomo waved back cheerfully. Smiling, he sighed inwardly. Weird, seeing others uncomfortable makes me feel great. Good thing I'm not mental, or I'd be a textbook villain. Oh, right. Stark paused by the car. Say hi to Wanda for me, and tell her I'm sorry about before. Will do. Watching Stark drive off, Jomo turned, frowning. Wait, where's Wanda? After the hot pot rhino crisis he'd left in the crowd, he'd figured she'd gone with Stark. Now it looked like Stark didn't know either. Had she come back alone? Wanda. Halfway up the stairs he called upward. No answer returned. Only then did he notice the villa's servants were gone too. He spun round, murderous glare fixing on a slash mark in the wall. Darkness descended, slowly blanketing the villa. Meanwhile, Mount Himalaya. The meditating Ancient One snapped her eyes open. Asgard. Odin gripped the eternal spear, majestic fury in his gaze. This aura, Dormammu. He's the one who took Wanda. Dormammu is about to descend on Earth. Immediately, the Ancient One rose and entered combat mode. Yet after watching carefully for 2 seconds, her taut nerves relaxed and she unhurriedly sat back down. Rather than Dormammu descending, it was more accurate to say the area around Jomo had been dragged into another dimension. Since things couldn't get bad enough to destroy Earth, the Ancient One naturally had no intention of intervening. There was no Dormammu here, yet Jomo could feel Dormammu's aura. Black, viscous aura crawled over the villa walls, writhing continuously. Even the floor wasn't spared, as if they'd stepped into a black swamp. The ceiling stretched infinitely upward. In this lightless space forged by black magic, all Jomo could see was endless darkness and Wanda, imprisoned in a black magic cage. The prison of black magic floated in midair. Above it, a group of black mages hovered. Among them Jomo spotted several familiar faces. Clutching 2 bars of the cage, Wanda was first to speak, frantic. Mr. Key. Don't worry about me, get out of here. Jomo gave a wry laugh. Classic damsel in distress scenario, huh? Slipping one hand into his pocket to hide the clumsy watch on his wrist, Jomo glanced at the mages and said flatly, all right, what's your goal? The lead mage stretched out a hand, fingers hooked like claws. Join us. This is Lord Dormammu's final offer. Jomo sneered. I already refused him once. What? After my rejection he was too scared to come himself. He only dares send a few rabid dogs to meet me. The lead mage's expression darkened, cold murderous intent flashing undisguised in his eyes. Yet only for an instant. Next second he smiled sinisterly. This time you won't dare die together with us. Looking down triumphantly, he made no effort to hide his glee. Unless, of course, you're willing to kill the woman you love along with us. Glancing at Wanda, Jomo sighed and scratched his head. A textbook villain, loves making threats. Wanda froze at those words. It was the first time she'd heard that love existed between her and Jomo. Not understanding that part, she focused all her attention on the previous sentence. Realizing the mages were using her to threaten Jomo, she was overwhelmed with guilt, tears streaming down. It's all because of me. I'm going to get Mr. Key killed. The brief silence only widened the lead mage's smile, like a cat toying with a mouse. From the way you held hands, you love her very much, don't you? SS's. Jomo's mouth twitched, so they'd seen them holding hands in the hot pot place and mistaken them for lovers. Wanda hadn't expected that reason either, but now wasn't the time to explain, or accuse Jomo of taking advantage. She only hated her own powerlessness that had led to this. She'd thought she could fight, yet the lead mage had pretty much one-shot her. If only I were strong enough, would any of this have happened? Would Pietro have died? Will Mr. Key now die because of me? Thinking of her dead parents, Wanda lowered her head. She suddenly felt she should have refused the Avengers' invitation. Her first encounter with them made Hulk run wild, and she'd even helped Ultron grow stronger. I only bring misfortune to others. I can die here and end it all. But Mr. Key is innocent. Veins bulged on her pale hands as she gripped the bars tighter. Black aura crept up her arms. Mysterious hero, can you reach us here? Asgard. Watching this scene, Odin slowly exhaled and loosened his grip on the eternal spear. Thor, who had only just returned, stood beside him. Thor's eyes widened in alarm as he stared at Odin, bewildered. Father. Aren't you going to stop this? Odin gave a soft snort, eyes on the magical projection, and countered with a smile, is this within the 9 realms? Thor froze, understanding the implication. His father had no interest in the life or death of these 2 earthlings at the moment. Lacking the power and knowing he couldn't persuade his father, Thor gazed at Jomo and Wanda's familiar faces in the projection, feeling only regret. What a pity, they're still so young. Earth, New York. Riding back in the Rolls-Royce, Stark stared at the tablet in his hands, too shocked to speak. This wasn't cosplay or acting, there really are freaking sorcerers in the world. Stark was completely stunned, he'd only wanted to check the Villa Gate camera for a glimpse of Jomo, how had he ended up seeing this mess? And why does it feel like Jomo is about to die? His aura shifting instantly, Stark barked, driver. Forget traffic laws, turn around right now. Yes, sir. Friday. You know my location, I need more than 1 armor. There was a suitcase-type portable armor in the trunk, but Stark knew that, whether in firepower or defense, a single set was far from enough. Against such a powerful foe it would be a brutal war of attrition. Receiving the order, Friday calmly reminded, Sir, your arm isn't fit for combat. Veins bulging unnoticed on his forehead, Stark practically roared, then forget about my health. After a few seconds of silence, Friday said, Yes, sir. Looking back at the tablet, the screen was pitch black again. The black aura had swallowed the entire villa and was writhing, intermittently blocking the camera feed. Stark had no idea how any of this was possible. Clearly, the 2 of them were no longer inside the original villa. The most likely explanation was that they'd been dragged into another dimension. In that case, how was the surveillance feed still getting through? But this wasn't the moment for questions. Stark leaned closer, the picture kept cutting in and out, yet the audio came through steady. What Stark found absolutely unacceptable was seeing a human killed by some weird entity, or an alien. Especially when it was someone he knew. Jomo was the linchpin of Earth's defense he'd placed all his hopes on. Even Stark believed Jomo's life was worth more than his own. Staring at the somewhat familiar black man's face, Jomo slapped his forehead and finally placed him. You're lying. No, you're the Ancient One's top disciple, right? The lead sorcerer's eyes darkened. After a few seconds of silence he ground out, correct. But the Ancient One was never a worthy sorcerer supreme, much less a qualified Earth's guardian. Baron Mordo slowly clenched his fist. I can replace her. Behind him, Caecilius said nothing, but his proud tilt of the chin showed he agreed. Sigh. Glancing disdainfully at the sludge-like black magic creeping across the floor, Jomo said lightly, then why haven't you guys let your hostages go and run for it? In a moment the Ancient One will come hunting you down. Stark froze at those words, this was the first he'd heard of sorcerers, and his brain raced to process it all. A second later, Stark silently applauded the remark. Yes, just let them go and finish this. Sorcerer Supreme, Earth's Guardian, those titles sounded mysterious, mighty, and righteous. Add to that the fact that you disciples have betrayed her. If she comes storming in, furious, you won't be able to run even if you want to. Stark didn't care about any of that, he just wanted it over with so Jomo and Wanda would be safe. Especially Jomo. Asgard. Thor's eyes lit up in the same way Stark's had. Right. How had he nearly forgotten? Earth still had a mighty guardian. If his stubborn old man wouldn't step in to save them, surely she would. Within the dark dimension, Wanda lifted her head weakly toward Jomo, red-rimmed eyes brightening with a glimmer of hope. She had been sure the mysterious superhero could never reach this place and had given herself up for lost. But now, hearing there was still the Ancient One, hope flared again. Full of expectation, Wanda whispered inwardly, can she save Mr. Key? Reactions differed outside, but on the Himalayas the Ancient One sat quietly, watching in silence. Her eyes, as ever, showed no flicker of emotion. As if hearing the grandest joke, Baron Mordo threw his head back and laughed. Ha 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 ha. He rounded on them with a snarl. You think we're fools? This place is not on Earth. He flung his arms wide. The Ancient One knows everything that happens on Earth. She's thwarted my master again and again, but she only cares about Earth. This is none of Earth's business. Baron Mordo thrust out a hand, teeth clenched. This is your last chance. Jomo, join us. Serve Lord Dormammu, be his loyal servant. The words left Wanda stunned, Thor stunned, Stark stunned. Beyond shock rose fury. In Stark, anger swiftly eclipsed bewilderment. He thought of the Ultron crisis, and his rage peaked in an instant. Earth has a mighty sorcerer supreme. Yet the Earth's guardian chooses to guard only Earth, turning her back on billions of human lives. Everything Stark strives to protect is the safety and peace of Earthlings. All his anxiety stems from his own lack of power, and he's nearly killed himself finding ways to grow stronger. But here stands a sorcerer supreme mighty enough to help, able, yet unwilling. Stark simply couldn't grasp it. If you won't save humanity, what are you guarding Earth for? Fury nearly undid him. He exploded. Humanity almost went extinct and you did nothing, so what the hell are you guarding? Realizing nothing he said could change anything, a calmer Stark could only urge his driver to go faster. His only hope now was that by entering the villa he could reach the battlefield. With Jomo under threat his strength would be limited. Stark might be able to tip the scales. Focused on the projection and on outer space, the Ancient One paid no heed to Stark's thoughts. Had she known, she would simply have said, yes. Even if Baron Mordo dissected Jomo and Wanda while they were conscious under her gaze, she would not intervene. Because it posed no danger to Earth's safety. You two can only fend for yourselves, the Ancient One murmured. Let nature take its course, this is your ending, I cannot interfere. She felt a twinge of regret. Within Wanda slumbered an unawakened chaos magic. Regarding what was to come, the Ancient One already sensed much. One thing was certain, Shadow absolutely could not handle Baron Mordo. As for Baron Mordo's power, the Ancient One had not forgotten, he had once been her foremost disciple, Steven's master brother. The silent mountaintop lit up with an eye-catching projection, and with the noise coming from the image, the disciples on the mountain couldn't help but be drawn over, unable to resist their curiosity. The other disciples didn't dare approach the Ancient One and kept their distance as they watched. Stephen had no such worries. Seeing his best buddy do it, he cautiously followed suit. Stephen hurried over, swept a quick glance across the figures in the projection, exhaled in relief, and said confidently, he'll definitely get out. Wong inwardly agreed with that. The sight of Jomo ignoring Stephen's magical attacks just now was still fresh in his mind. If Jomo wanted to leave now, he'd probably just turn into a ghostly shadow and lift a foot. Easy. No. The usually taciturn Ancient One spoke crisply, flatly denying it. That ghostly shadow avoided your magic by turning his body intangible. But his intangibility can't avoid Baron Mordo. Stephen frowned, turned his head in shock toward the Ancient One, mouth open but speechless. His brain was still digesting the sentence. A moment later, Stephen figured it out. Baron Mordo's magical potency exceeds mine and surpasses the limit the ghostly shadow can endure. So Jomo's ghostly shadow couldn't work. His heart shuddered, Stephen's pupils contracted violently. He knew Baron Mordo's strength, stronger than him, but not by that much. All this could only mean, he's absorbed black magic power. For the first time Stephen felt such intense fear. The mastermind behind all this is Dormammu. This was Stephen's first encounter with Dormammu. Face full of shock and fear, Stephen stared at the Ancient One's profile. His brain still dazed, he didn't speak. Wong voiced Stephen's inner dread. Master, Mordo has become Dormammu's follower and is about to commit evil. Won't you stop him? As calm as ever, the Ancient One sounded, to them, almost cold. Anything unrelated to Earth's safety is none of our concern. I hope you remember that. Hearing this, Stephen stood dumbstruck, seeing Jomo silent, seeming to hesitate. Baron Mordo delivered a cruel follow-up. If you're counting on the Ancient One, give up. These big shots want order and stability, they don't care about one ordinary person's life or death. Inexplicably, in an instant, Baron Mordo's eyes brimmed with resentment, his voice ringing, blame yourself for not being the disciple she chose. If it were that guy, no matter where, she'd move heaven and earth to save him. The next second, Baron Mordo totally cracked and roared, still don't get it. Everything you strive for, you end up with nothing. While the idiots picked by those big shots can easily get what you dream of. So why keep holding on? Come on. Baron Mordo spread his arms fiendishly. Let Earth taste our fury. Agree, and you'll gain mighty power and. Lowering his gaze, Baron Mordo deliberately paused. Immortality. The speech left Steven's scalp tingling. Though he knew it was meant to shatter Jomo's mental defenses, the words still shook him. Such persuasive power. And from the sound of it, he himself seemed to be a privileged disciple. Steven sneaked a glance at the Ancient One. She remained impassive. Only then did Steven feel steadier inside. The Master chose him for a reason. He was heaven-chosen and hard-working, privilege shouldn't come into it. And indeed the words drew no reaction from the Ancient One. To her, Jomo had some value, just a sliver, nowhere near as important as Earth. Whether he joined Dormammu, utterly irrelevant. If he did, she could kill him if possible, if not, drive him off. On that point, the Ancient One was absolutely confident. Wanda widened her eyes at Jomo, lips parted, as if something were about to burst out of them. To her, it sounded like a good deal. Because it would let Jomo live. Jomo scratched his head, oddly tempted. Why does this feel like a dark-schooled senior persuading a small-town grind? Jomo looked up and asked earnestly, then can I just take the mighty power and immortality without becoming Dormammu's follower? Baron Mordo, who had just finished delivering an impassioned speech, froze at those words. Then, with visible speed, cold-killing intent spread across his face, and his voice turned icy as well. I've already told you, you have only two choices. Submit, or die. Under that frigid tone, Baron Mordo lifted his chin, murderous intent raging in his eyes. It seems you've made your choice. The instant his voice fell. Black magical aura erupted beneath Jomo's feet, swallowing him in a flash. All that could be seen was a dense, human-sized black mass. Having done this, Baron Mordo curled his lips in satisfaction. His surging power came from Dormammu. Naturally, he also knew from Dormammu that Jomo had a mutual kill ace. He'd long since prepared for it. With a smug declaration of victory, Baron Mordo announced, now, neither your mind nor your body can move. Next, your body will be controlled by Lord Dormammu. Personally, Baron Mordo would have preferred to kill, but Dormammu forbade it. Jomo seemed uniquely special, able, and already connected, to link minds with Dormammu, making him a perfect vessel for Dormammu's descent. With his mind destroyed and only his body left for Dormammu to control, it was, in a way, no different from death. Wanda stretched a small hand through the cage bars, tears streaming as she screamed, grief strangling her voice hoarse. No. Mr. Key. The girl's heart-rending cry echoed through the silent, empty space. No answer came. The sound naturally reached Odin and the Ancient One's ears as well. Neither even bothered to blink. Only Stark, the faint camera feed clearly capturing the scene, bulged with veins on neck and forehead, roaring. Where the hell is Earth's guardian? So furious his whole body shook. He simply couldn't understand, these were two lives. If they had the power, why not save them? And the killer is your own disciple. In his agitation, Stark even felt the wild urge to go fight Earth's guardian to the death. I killed you, it's my fault he died. From the tablet, Wanda's anguished sobs kept coming. Stark's chest heaved as he panted. He was starting to realize Baron Mordo had been right. That black magical aura was like a hunting beast, ferociously drilling into Jomo's body, scrambling for a bigger share. And Jomo's body could neither resist nor react. He cursed another fool. A sliver of hope still clung in his heart, until Friday snuffed it out. Sir, confirmed, the villa has vanished. Even after you arrive, you won't be able to enter the space shown in the feed. Stark nearly smashed the tablet on hearing that. So he could only watch as Jomo's consciousness was stripped away, reduced to a vessel. Then watch again as these black mages killed Wanda. Eyes shut in pain, Stark hated himself, wanting to punch his own face. Why? Could he do nothing at all? The Rolls-Royce fell silent, only Wanda's broken sobs came through the tablet. The girl's weeping was full of despair and agony, heart-shredding. Above the 9 realms, Odin looked down impassively. Among the mountains, the Ancient One showed no reaction. Only Wanda's sobs echoed again and again. Then next, you shall be the sacrifice. Cold stares snapped toward her. Baron Mordo led the flight toward the caged Wanda. Offer your life and blood to Lord Dormammu. Watching the ring of black mages flying at her, Wanda abruptly calmed. She wanted nothing more than to slaughter them all. And she felt something inside her, beginning to awaken. With the sobs gone, the scene plunged into silence. As the oppressive group of black mages bore down on Wanda, a sound rang out, clear and utterly out of place, reaching everyone's ears. Slurp tilde. Instantly, every person froze. Baron Mordo was first to react. He whipped his head toward the sound, and stared at Jomo. Slurp. He saw Jomo, head and chest now free, raise a hand. And actually slurp the black magic on his palm right into his mouth. Evil explosive frog. Unlocked. Success. Doubt rose from the depths of Baron Mordo's eyes. For a moment, he couldn't tell if the person before him was Dormammu or Jomo. Logically, after being restrained by black magic, he shouldn't be able to move. Wanda's tears turned into a smile, her eyes instantly lighting up. Mr. Key. Jomo scooped another spoonful of black magic into his mouth to savor the taste, while waving his other hand, saying faintly, heard it, don't shout so loud. This stuff is indeed terrible. Seeing this, doubt was instantly replaced by killing intent. Baron Mordo immediately realized his failure. This was not Dormammu at all. But how did he do it? Baron Mordo frowned deeply. The black magic restraint was complete. Either he actively released it, or the opponent's breakout magic power could shatter the cage. Eat it. Mordo himself didn't know there was such a way to break free. Thinking of Jomo's mutual destruction, Mordo felt apprehension and dared not act rashly. Mainly, he still didn't understand what had happened. A large part of his current power came from Dormammu. Jomo. How did he eat Dormammu's magic power? Can this stuff even be eaten? Mordo looked suspiciously at his hands. Some were happy, some were sad. Seeing that Jomo was unaffected, Stark was instantly overjoyed. This kid always manages to surprise people. Meanwhile, Odin smiled as he pronounced Jomo's death sentence. Hearing that Jomo was going to die, Thor expressed his confusion. He clearly broke free from the restraint and had a chance to survive, so why would he die? For an Earthling, whether mutant or not, they cannot resist Dormammu's dark power. Either they go insane and become madmen, or, Odin pursed his lips, they explode and die. Unless he is powerful to a certain extent, he can remain unaffected by the dark power. Odin denied this with a playful smile. He knew almost everyone who had reached such a level of power. Although he couldn't give specifics, he could be sure that Jomo was definitely not one of them. Thor, crestfallen and astonished, cast his gaze back to the projection. So, next he would see Jomo go insane or explode and die. So, Jomo was still going to die. At this point, Odin guessed the outcome without looking, and was about to close the magic projection to teach Thor about Dormammu, but was drawn back by Jomo's transformation. Odin smiled happily. This is getting interesting. It seems he's making a final stand. Thor, however, couldn't smile at all. He didn't understand why Jomo had turned into a frog. Stark thought the same, and even more intensely. Of all the things to transform into at a time like this, why a frog? Does he want to be squeezed into juice by these black mages? Stark was about to lash out, but then thought better of it and suppressed his anger. Past experience told him that Jomo's transformation was not that simple. But what use is a frog? Stark's nerves were taut, almost on edge, as he continued watching. Looking at the evil explosive frog, Mordo remembered Jomo's mutual destruction, and with a proud tone, tried his best to squeeze out some friendliness. It seems we can continue to talk. Jomo sneered. You wanted to kill me just now, and now you want to continue talking. Changing his tone, Jomo cursed. Talk to your mother. Any words you have, say them in my stomach. With that, Jomo, who had turned into the evil explosive frog, decided to first devour the remaining restraints around him to avoid affecting his subsequent actions. Neither Mordo nor Wanda could hide their surprise and were speechless at this sight. A talking frog, with such a bad temper, cursing, it seemed so incongruous. At this moment, the evil explosive frog opened its mouth wide and inhaled, and the remaining restraints swirled into its mouth, disappearing completely. Why does it taste a bit like spicy soup? Sure enough, the evil explosive frog's taste is different from a human's. Mordo was puzzled, how could he still eat? However, it was not a time for much thought. Realizing there was no turning back, killing intent reignited in Mordo's eyes. He seized the opportunity and waved his hand, and the dark aura in the space surged towards the evil explosive frog like a tsunami. The massive surge engulfed the evil explosive frog in a blink of an eye. With his vision obstructed, Wanda looked back and forth but couldn't see any sign of the evil explosive frog. She only found it strange that after so much dark aura surged, its original place remained unchanged, as if the dark aura was inexhaustible. After watching, Mordo's lips curved into an uncontrollable smile. In terms of strength alone, he was confident he could easily crush Jomo. The only thing that made him wary was Jomo's mutual destruction. Even Dormammu feared that thing. Let alone him. And now, this guy didn't use mutual destruction. Mordo was confident he could kill him instantly. He didn't even pay attention to the evil explosive frog anymore. It was impossible for him to survive. Mordo smiled sinisterly, lowering his eyes to look down at Wanda, his palm raised again. He certainly hadn't forgotten Wanda. If he was going to kill, he would kill them all. Just then, suddenly, Caecilius pointed into the distance and said in horror, "Baron Mordo." Mordo's pupils constricted, and he sharply turned his head in the direction Caecilius was pointing. He saw the evil explosive frog, leaping into midair, opening its huge mouth, and frantically devouring the massive amounts of dark aura. In the time it took him to glance at Wanda, the massive dark aura had almost been completely devoured, and the evil explosive frog's figure could be clearly seen. Mordo's brows were practically twisted into a knot. He completely couldn't understand why this dark aura would be eaten by Jomo. After devouring it, the evil explosive frog's body began to descend. Touching his slightly rounded belly, Jomo nodded inwardly. It really tasted like ulatang, but unfortunately, there were no beef slices or gluten. It felt like drinking a bowl of pure soup. The taste of home. Asgard. Seeing this, the playfulness in Odin's eyes turned into confusion. He also couldn't understand. Why would a human actively devour dark aura containing Dormammu's power? Or rather, why could they devour it? In the projection, Mordo spread his hands, and black light points appeared in his palms. The dark aura surged violently into the light points as if summoned, and the light points grew larger and larger, becoming the size of a car in a blink of an eye. With the continuous influx of dark aura, the black magic orb almost became solid. This time, the dark aura disappeared after surging in. Within it, Odin felt the ultimate aura of Dormammu. Odin, being well informed, showed no reaction to this. Thor, however, just looking at it, felt immense pressure and quickly turned pale. Aside from fleeing, he realized he had no idea how to deal with this attack. Similarly, these two dark magic orbs caused Steven's expression to change drastically, and he felt powerless. Only then did he understand why Sorcerer Ancient One had said that Ghost Shadow was useless against Mordo. This attack, rather than being from Mordo, was more like it was launched by Dormammu himself. What the heck? The power gap is indeed huge. Ancient One whispered, "It's about to end." Steven, startled, didn't speak, but instinctively hummed in his heart. It was indeed about to end. This time you can't eat it. Aiming at the evil explosive frog, Mordo, with a distorted face, shot out the magic orb. Mordo was using the power Dormammu bestowed upon him. The situation was urgent. To achieve a quick victory, he could only use his trump card. Having done so, Mordo's face turned pale, and he let out a sigh of relief, as if having escaped a calamity. This time, it could end. This strike was no different from Dormammu himself arriving. Seeing two car-sized magic orbs smashing towards him, the evil explosive frog tensed its legs and leapt with force. In midair, it naturally opened its mouth as wide as possible. Seeing the evil explosive frog actively leaping towards the black magic orbs, Ancient One couldn't help but show a hint of a smile, finding it amusing. This was Dormammu's power. If he had dodged, there might have been a chance. But to actively meet it like this. Before her thoughts finished, Ancient One saw that the evil explosive frog actually swallowed both magic orbs in one gulp. Ancient One was instantly bewildered. What was happening? He neither blocked nor dodged. How did he take Dormammu's strike in? Eat it. Swallowing it in one gulp, Jomo's eyes instantly lit up. Holy cow, it tastes like Daoko braised chicken. This is good. Asgard. Odin blinked rapidly, even suspecting he was seeing things. The magic orbs were entirely Dormammu's power. An attack of this level would require him to seriously block it. How could this frog easily eat it? This thing. Can it be eaten? No, right. Odin was somewhat uncertain. In his memory, the power of this thing could penetrate a small planet. How could it be eaten? But this frog really ate it. What's going on? The evil explosive frog, after leaping, did not stop. Like an arrow shot, it drew a perfect arc in midair and then landed in front of Mordo. After its mouth opened again, Mordo's position became empty. Having completed all this, the evil explosive frog's body finally began to descend. Everyone present, seeing all this, was stunned. Wanda blinked rapidly, unable to believe that the frog Jomo had turned into could actually eat Mordo's attack. And the group of black mages almost cried out. No. Where's my big brother? Frogs have excellent jumping ability, so a leap like that, from midair to a natural landing, takes a few seconds. It was in these few seconds that Odin, after serious and quick thought, still believed that Jomo would die. The reason was simple. In his understanding, no human could absorb such a large amount of dark power and remain unaffected. He still believed that Jomo would explode and die. Immediately after, Odin saw the evil explosive frog, after landing, spit Mordo out. Nothing else, eating people is not good. However, Jomo also had no intention of letting Mordo go. After spitting him onto the ground, the evil explosive frog opened its mouth again. Immediately, Odin's pupils constricted. Inside the evil explosive frog's mouth, he actually saw. Inside evil explosive frog's gaping mouth, a tiny black dot appeared. In the blink of an eye, the speck doubled in size, becoming a sphere of black magic. It was hundreds of times larger than evil explosive frog himself. Mordo, flung to the ground, stared dumbstruck. How did it spit out something that huge? Just how massive is this frog's stomach? Before Mordo could waste another word, evil explosive frog blasted the orb straight at him. The sphere struck true, the earth shook and Mordo simply vanished. No ash, no dust. Task done, the frog pivoted on his heels, stood upright, and eyed the black mages. Seeing that cute, silly face, the mages decided this thing was scarier than Dormammu. This creature. It can eat absolutely anything. Suddenly the frog let out a savage roar. Arg. I'm going to eat you all. He sprang, jaws wide, and charged. Several mages were literally scared to tears. Which side is the dark one here? You're actually eating people. Some fled, others hurled spells, trying to stop him. Evil explosive frog accepted every attack, sucking them in with a whirlwind gulp. Soon, amid sobs, the mages scattered. Asgard. Father. Pointing at the projection, Thor spun around, stunned. What he spat out was Dormammu's power he'd just swallowed. Eat it, then spit it back, Thor murmured, pupils trembling. How did he do it? Odin said nothing in reply to Thor's urgent question. After a few seconds Thor relaxed, as though reassured. Right, his father is All-Father Odin, what's there to fear? In all the universe, is there anything Odin can't handle? Comforted, Thor exhaled and watched the chase with interest. Thor didn't notice Odin's silent grip tighten on the eternal spear or the solemn look on his brow. It wasn't about keeping dignity before Thor. He simply didn't know, because none of it made sense. Not even water, let alone ordinary food, could be swallowed in such quantity without bursting a human. Yet this human mutant hadn't eaten food, he'd eaten Dormammu's dark power. His stomach should have exploded the instant it went in. To eat it and then spit it back. Odin had never heard of such a thing. It was utterly illogical. Therefore Odin concluded. Jomo would die. He had achieved this feat by paying with his life as Dormammu's power consumed him. Only that explanation fit. The Himalayas. Most horrified of all was Stephen. He could accept being tormented by Shadow, he was weak. But Master Brother, empowered by Dormammu, stronger than himself, had also been one shot. Spell and mana alike swallowed by Jomo in a single gulp. Are we mages, this feeble? Spinning around, Stephen looked anxiously to Ancient One for comfort. Reading his mind, Ancient One said calmly, he will die there. Stephen asked cautiously, because of the dark power. Ancient One gave a slight nod. Relieved yet saddened, Stephen watched black mages fall like rain, corpses thudding to earth. Last of all, evil explosive frog landed. Of course he hadn't really eaten them, a good kid like Jomo would never promote cannibalism. For these scrubs, the frog's own energy breath was lethal enough. Landing before Wanda, the frog eyed the cage. Step back, don't touch my Dao Ko roast chicken. Oh okay. Not understanding the last part, dazed Wanda still backed away. With an, ah, he opened wide and bit, tearing a man-sized hole in the cage in a few chomps. Uninstructed, Wanda waited until the cage was completely eaten before stepping out, still staring. Even now she couldn't grasp that magic could be eaten to break it. Patting his round belly, Jomo was content. Truly the taste of home. Wanda glanced around worriedly. Mr. Key, how do we get out? She checked the area, they seemed boxed in with no exit. That's why the mages could run freely, only Mordo could open the sealed space. Seeing this, Odin's lips curled in a smile. Finally realized you're trapped. Next comes proof of my guess, the side effects of dark power, about to surface. Wanda wrung her hands, near tears. I don't know space releasing magic either. PFF'd. What's the big deal? Evil explosive frog waddled over. Jomo hated seeing anyone cry in front of him. That single motion let Wanda spot the clumsy watch emblem on evil explosive frog's chest. While Wanda froze, evil explosive frog slipped into the ground like a fish into the sea and started gnawing. In the blink of an eye he chewed a perfectly straight tunnel, visible to the naked eye. The tunnel broke through the villa's floor and light flooded back in. Floor first, then walls, then ceiling, layer after layer. Before Wanda could react, half the villa had reappeared. She could already see the front door. Sunlight spilled through the French windows, birdsong and blooming flowers outside in full view. Wanda looked up, delighted. Mr. Key, it's enough. We can get out. No. Muffled by the ceiling, evil explosive frog scuttled along on tiny claws while still chewing. I'm still hungry. Odin froze at those words. Still hungry. Invaded by dark power, wasn't he supposed to go insane or explode? What did, still hungry, even mean? Ancient One's brows knitted together. She too drew on dark power to extend her life. Every time she acted with utmost caution. After filtering and digesting just the amount she needed, she would withdraw at once, afraid extra intake would bring side effects. Yet Jomo seemed to be snacking on that same power completely unprotected. How was that reasonable? Wasn't he suffering any side effects? In unison, Odin and Ancient One, two titans, shared the same doubt, both probed at once. The answer startled them. Inside evil explosive frog they sensed not a trace of dark aura. The discovery stunned them. He'd just eaten so much, why wasn't any of it inside him? Where had it all gone? Ancient One's lips parted slightly, guessing something. Could Jomo's current form devour anything? And remain completely unaffected by what it eats? While Ancient One marveled, evil explosive frog gulped dark aura from the roof. Each bite he swallowed, the villa regained a bit more substance. Seeing it nearly gone, he stopped, heartbroken. It's almost finished already. No way. His eyes turned fierce. Next time I meet Dormammu I'll just gobble him up too. Wonder what he tastes like. The instant those words fell, the remaining darkness vanished. Where's my food? Evil explosive frog gawked. Ancient One clearly felt the Dormammu aura that had roused her disappear. Her pupils contracted, she stiffened. Dormammu had been scared off by that sentence. Asgard. At the moment, Odin's mindset shifted from, I've lived long enough to have seen everything, to, I've lived long enough, but I've never seen this. The human's words showed he'd met Dormammu before. Dormammu had used a follower instead of his true form this time, proof of their last encounter's outcome. Now Odin seriously wondered, could this human, once transformed into a frog, actually eat Dormammu? Otherwise why would Dormammu flee? He hadn't even set foot on Earth, no one would intervene. What the hell, can that thing eat everything? Then, would Earth's guardian's treasure be devoured by him too? Odin shook his head, dismissing the pointless thought. With the matter over, he saw no need to keep watching. He tapped the eternal spear to the floor and shut off the magical projection. Thor, still rejoicing that two people he knew had survived, was cut short. Curious, he looked up to see his father turning away, hesitating, expression unreadably complex. Unable to hold back, Odin said, Thor, if you return to Earth and meet that human again, hide Mjolnir well. Thor blinked, utterly bewildered. Odin offered no explanation. Gripping the eternal spear tighter than ever, he strode away. Himalayas. The moment the projection vanished, Ancient One spun around, her grave look making Stephen jump. Stephen, I need you to find Jomo right now. Billa. Landing and returning to human shape, Jomo groaned in frustration. Taste of home. How could it vanish before I'd eaten enough? Tablet in hand, Stark walked over grinning ear to ear. Is this how fans feel when their team wins? His earlier cheer had smashed the tablet against the car roof, the screen cracked and went black. Arms folded, chin in hand, Jomo pondered what else could recreate that flavor. Facing the tycoon who'd indirectly killed her parents, Wanda had no idea what to say. Getting no reply, Stark shrugged. Fine, no big deal, just swap the circuit board. At those words Jomo's eye twitched. In his mind the little soldier icon lit up. What the hell? Don't tell me I really have to listen to Stark's lecture to unlock you. Let's try it first. Jomo walked over enthusiastically and put his arm around Stark's shoulder. Stark was surprised by this enthusiasm. When did he become so nice to him? Bang. Jomo made a fist with his other hand and punched Stark in the stomach. Long time no see, Mr. Stark. The punch didn't hurt much. Stark looked Jomo up and down, feeling an inexplicable ominous premonition. Long time no see. Didn't we just see each other 10 minutes ago? Anyway, it's good to see you alive. Stark said sincerely with a serious face. Jomo pretended to be depressed and scratched his head. The progress bar was at 5% just now, but now the experience gained from this punch is 0. This shows that little soldier's activation experience comes from Stark's wisdom, not from fighting him. Do I really have to listen to his lecture? Jomo opened his mouth and spoke. He glanced at the tablet in Stark's hand, his attention completely focused on it. I inexplicably went to another space just now, and now I'm inexplicably back. Stark rolled his eyes and showed the tablet, inexplicably. I know how you got out. It contains videos of you transforming and fighting those mages as evidence. Are you still going to deny it? As soon as he finished speaking, Jomo snatched the tablet and threw it to the ground. Stark's expression changed instantly. He looked down and found that the cracked tablet was even more shattered. After raising his head, he saw Jomo waiting for him with a serious face. Now the evidence is gone, you can't frame me. Immediately, Stark was amused. He thought to himself, doesn't he know that I have a cloud backup? In a good mood, Stark also planned to tease Jomo. He leaned back and approached Jomo, pointing at the tablet and pretending to be profound. Buddy, do you know it can still be repaired? Just replace its circuit board, oh right, and the power supply, right at that location. Stark pointed intimately. Then replace it with a new motherboard and screen, and we can see the video it stores again. After speaking, Stark looked at Jomo, anticipating his reaction. Now, can you still deny it? Now the progress bar has reached 8%. Jomo gritted his teeth inwardly. Since this is the case, he can only continue to pretend to be a fool. Jomo looked over in confusion, pointing and saying, why? This reaction exceeded Stark's expectations, and he was at a loss for a moment. He originally thought that Jomo would continue to hide his identity, or be guilty, or say that he had other secrets. Asking himself why this could repair the tablet really caught him off guard. Stark was speechless and couldn't say a complete sentence. He realized that he didn't know how to explain it. It's just replace the broken parts with new ones, and wouldn't the thing be repaired? Why is there a why? I think we have more important things to talk about. A gleam of light appeared in his eyes, and Stark brought the topic back on track. Since he wants to pretend to be a fool, then he must pretend to the end. Jomo leaned back tactically and sneered contemptuously. Frankly speaking, Mr. Stark, I don't believe you can fix this thing. The light in his eyes disappeared, and Stark stared at Jomo, puzzled as if he had seen something extremely absurd. He actually doubted that he, a super genius who could build Mark mechas, couldn't fix a tablet. His eyes changed, and Stark took a deep breath. You know what? I can easily fix it. This thing doesn't even have any technical content, at least in my opinion. With a contemptuous look on his face, Stark fully explained the principle and advantages and disadvantages of the tablet. Listening and listening, the disdain on Jomo's face gradually turned into sluggishness. When describing the circuit, he heard some familiar positive and negative poles. What is this thing? What was it? After speaking in one breath, Stark was satisfied and snorted coldly. How about it? Jomo blinked, a little slow to recover. He only noticed that little soldier's experience value had gone from 8 to 20. The experience value is not full, of course he can't say that he understands, he has to continue. Putting his arm around Stark, Jomo walked into the house. Mr. Stark, I still don't understand some of the things you just said. Can you explain it again? Stark was inexplicably impatient. Why is he so entangled with a tablet? Stark stopped immediately. Didn't you learn these physics knowledge when you were in school? I'm a sports student. Jomo also stopped and said truthfully. After hearing this, Wanda understood. No wonder he eats so much. At this time, Wanda's mentality towards Jomo was completely different. She didn't see clearly during the shadow ghost, but she saw clearly during the evil explosive frog. It turns out that the person who has done good deeds several times without leaving a name and has a heart of gold is right in front of her. Wanda subconsciously ignored all of Jomo's previous shortcomings. Facts have proved that a girl's brainpower is very terrible. Soon, the image of a paladin appeared in Wanda's mind, and even small stars appeared in Wanda's eyes. Looking at the stopped Jomo, Wanda opened her mouth softly, just wanting to confirm Jomo's identity, but was interrupted by Stark. Che Gyu. Jomo. Noticing that Jomo continued to lead him into the house, Stark interrupted. I hope you understand that there are many things in the world that are more important than a full broken tablet. Stark still wanted to bring Jomo into the Avengers. Wanda shut her mouth, the small stars in her eyes disappeared, replaced by confusion. Jomo. Isn't his name Che Guevara? Wanda remembered that the leading black magic mage did call him that in space. She was still crying at that time and didn't listen carefully enough. Jomo. On the other side of Wanda, Steven's voice came. He descended from the sky and walked over with a smile. I thought you would use your other name Sun Xiaochuan. Or, Otto. Sun Xiaochuan. Otto. Wanda frowned. What is his real name? Another magician. Stark, who saw Steven for the first time, was instantly alert. Steven raised his hands, but his eyes were on Jomo. He smiled and said, We've met. I think, maybe we can become friends. With just one glance, Jomo looked away. You ignored me just now, and now you want to win me over. Quickly judging Steven's identity, even Stark's tone was disgusted. Are you the Earth's guardian who stood by and watched? Ignoring Steven, Jomo put his arm around Stark and continued to walk inside. He's not, a bald woman sent him here. I heard you're researching nanotechnology. Why don't we talk about that? Stark was shocked. When did Jomo invade my system? Steven was even more surprised. How could Jomo know about the Sorcerer Ancient One's existence? Did Dormammu tell him? Seeing that Jomo didn't stop him, Wanda naturally didn't say anything and let Steven follow. In the living room, Stark took out a small ball from his pocket, glanced at Steven, and his eyes were even more smug. He just loves to show off. You want to hear it? Of course, Teacher Stark. Jomo sat on the sofa and casually pulled over a cushion to hug, looking like a good student listening to a lecture. Good student. Stark put the small ball on the table, and a plan projection appeared. One by one, Stark explained it very carefully. He hoped that Jomo could see his efforts. In this regard, Steven also tactfully did not disturb him. But judging from the way he crossed his arms, he wasn't interested in it. No matter how good technology is, it's not as good as magic. After talking for about 10 minutes, Stark finished speaking in one breath, savoring the aftertaste endlessly. How about it? Jomo looked down and pondered. Although he didn't understand anything. But little soldier's progress bar is full. Shedding his disguise, Jomo looked over and nodded calmly. Understood, keep up the good work. Stark was stunned. The huge contrast before and after left him at a loss. He was still calling himself teacher just now, but now why is he so indifferent? He quickly sat down and explained, "This is my research direction. Before it's completed, I need you." PFF'd. Stephen couldn't help but laugh, one hand on his shoulder and the other covering his mouth. Stark sent a cold light and shook his head slightly with hostility. "I don't understand. Can you tell me what you're laughing at?" Simply putting down his hand, Stephen pointed to the small ball and said, "I used to be a doctor, Stark." "Oh, your name is Stark, right?" Speaking, Stephen walked to the opposite sofa. "According to my understanding of technology, this is simply not something that current human technology can achieve." Hearing this, Stark straightened his tie and leaned back on the sofa, smiling and raising his chin, flames dancing in his eyes. "You're right. Right now, no one but me can make nanotechnology." Even back when he was a doctor, Stephen had been a famously arrogant man, and years of training still hadn't fully stripped him of that conceit. He simply spread his hands and, in the most innocent tone he could muster, delivered the most devastating line possible. "Oh. In that case, why don't you do it yourself?" Stark's forehead darkened, his momentum evaporated. He looked away and muttered, "That's why I said I need time." Winning the war of words left Stephen smug, but his triumph lasted all of 2 seconds before Stark's stare cut him off. "Hold on, what business is this of yours?" Sketching a circle with his finger, Stark suddenly remembered something. "If I'm not mistaken, this is still my house." The smile on Stephen's face froze instantly. Seriously. When he can't win the argument, he just kicks people out. While the two traded barbs, Jomo was pondering how best to use Little Soldier. With the sigil gone and Dormammu's threat erased, he had more than enough raw power. What he lacked now was privacy. Inside the pocket space he'd sensed someone watching, no prizes for guessing who. Aside from the two famously powerful Earth Watchers, who else could it be but Odin and the Ancient One? Unwilling to learn magic yet determined not to be spied upon, he'd have to rely on tech, perhaps design an energy field to block magical scrying. The rough idea began to form. Shapeshifter could handle the manual work, but the actual blueprint and planning would fall to Little Soldier, and Jomo had complete faith in him. As a Galvan, Little Soldier was the brightest alien species in the original Ben 10 universe. Earth tech is legal only up to level 2, the clumsy watch built by Little Soldier's race clocks in at level 20. Therefore, Jomo figured that, not just in the original universe, but here in the Marvel universe, Little Soldier was the smartest being alive. Against Marvel's geniuses, Little Soldier was an overwhelming intellectual dimension crusher. With the concept clear, it was time to build. Jomo stood up, intent on chasing his guests out first. The instant he pushed off the sofa, a jolt like electricity shot through his mind and his eyes blazed. Since Little Soldier's unlocked, why not let him tinker with the clumsy watch? Jomo had never forgotten the watch's ability to wield two alien heroes at once. Thunderbolt plus Flash Star. Four-armed Overlord plus Diamond God of War. Or maybe Thunderbolt plus Fire Man. Combine those powers and his combat strength would jump another entire tier. The thought had his heart racing. It felt not only feasible but the only path forward. How else could he unlock the simultaneous use of two abilities? Attention fully captured, Jomo rose, barely able to contain his excitement. And of course he had to try Fire Man plus Big Steel Teeth. Coat Big Steel Teeth with seasoning first, then add flames. He wanted to see if he'd end up as Westlake Vinegar Fish. He waved at the two men. All right, you can leave now." The moment those words landed, the bickering pair snapped their heads toward him. Stark was startled. "That's it. I'm being kicked out." But since he'd already laid out his plans and dreams, Stark said nothing more. "Perfect timing, I was heading back anyway." Stark stood decisively, giving Stephen a meaningful glance. "My personal doctor is begging me to resume treatment." Reading between the lines, Stephen's eye twitched. Translation. No matter how brilliant the physician, he's still a humble servant at a rich man's feet. "I'd just like to say," Stephen raised a finger, preserving a shred of dignity, "not every illness in this world can be cured by technology. Most important of all is what lies within." Ignoring him, Stark waved goodbye with his back already turned. From the look of his shoulders, he was grinning ear to ear. Drawing a calming breath, Stephen turned to Jomo. We need to talk. Your frog ability can't handle Dormammu. If he wishes it, you'll be dead before you even realize, no chance to devour anything. Stop. Jomo cut him off irritably. I'm not interested in talking to the Ancient One's messenger. Right now, drop and give me 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 squats, and 1,000 crunches. Steven's heart clenched. After 2 stunned seconds he pointed toward the door and forced a laugh. I just remembered, you rushed me to leave earlier. That was then, this is now. Jomo cut him off again, stabbing a finger at the floor. No magic. Start. Steven blinked. He was a mage, his physique was garbage. There was no way he could finish that set. Can I refuse? Jomo licked his lips. You can try, if you don't mind being eaten. Watching Steven totter away barely able to stand, Jomo felt instantly happier. Seeing someone else unhappy instantly cheers me up. With a joyful stride, Jomo turned and headed for the underground room. Dormammu. I said I'd roll him into a ball and crush him I will. Before me back then, HMPH, he was the one with absolutely no power to resist. He died without even knowing how. Mount Himalaya. Only the Ancient One was present. Hearing this through the magical projection, she couldn't help feeling puzzled. From his appearance, Jomo seemed very confident. Yet the Ancient One couldn't figure out how he planned to roll Dormammu into a ball and crush him. As a father class herself, even with the Time Stone's boost she could barely repel Dormammu. Jomo's strength was far below hers. Was he boasting, or was there another secret? After thinking, she decided it was the former. Just then, Jomo again felt that familiar sensation of being spied upon and looked up at the ceiling. As for the Ancient One. Don't think she's the only one who can control time. Hearing this, the Ancient One's brows instantly knitted. He knew she had the Time Stone. And what did he mean? She wasn't the only one who could control time. She had sent out Steven and done all this simply because she'd seen this ordinary mutant, Jomo, devouring vast amounts of dark energy yet remaining unharmed, something that baffled her. But instead of clearing her doubts, the scene only thickened the fog in her heart. Her intuition told her Jomo was definitely no simple man. As Jomo walked toward the underground room, Wanda happily rushed over. The two of them had left. Finally it was her turn. Mr. Joe, while we were in that space I almost thought you'd been paralyzed into a plant person. Yet to her concern Jomo showed slight annoyance. He noticed Wanda cradling a plump white cat in her arms. Staring at the cat, he casually replied, how could a grown man like me become a plant person? Once the seal ended I turned into a big tree, that's all. Wanda blinked, not quite catching his meaning. Pointing at the cat, Jomo said, let that cat go. In his tone Wanda surprisingly sensed a trace of fear. Mr. Joe was afraid of this cat. Quickly reasoning, she figured he must be allergic to cat fur. It's probably a stray. I noticed it hanging around nearby. Wanda set the cat down. As she did, Jomo spotted a familiar black pentagram mark appearing on Wanda's wrist. Wanda noticed it too and looked over in puzzlement. When did this show up? She rubbed at it but couldn't scrub it off. Jomo sneered inwardly, so Dormammu had branded Wanda again. You dare mark the woman I've got my eye on. You're in for a world of hurt. Alright, don't worry about the mark, it's nothing. I've got some business, be right back. Heading for the underground room, Jomo solemnly warned, and remember, do not let that cat inside. Wanda gave a few dazed, sounds. Mr. Joe is really that scared of cats. Reaching the underground room under the Ancient One's gaze, Jomo willed himself and transformed into Little Soldier. It wasn't Jomo who feared cats, it was Little Soldier. To a feline predator, Little Soldier was literally crunchy and chicken-flavored. Steven had just stepped outside, about to fly off, when he spotted Stark leaning against the car, eyeing him meaningfully. The Rolls-Royce sped along. Inside, Stark opened first, I want to talk with you. Steven half-turned, smiling thinly, I don't want to hear about your nanotech. I know you're a genius, but current tech simply can't support it, like the smartest caveman still couldn't build a rocket. Stark sighed. Of course I know, that's why I said I need time. Right now there's no nano sample for me to study. What I want to say is, Stark drew a deep breath. Sensing something, Steven listened intently. Just then Friday's voice rang out. Sir, Large-scale nanomaterial activity has suddenly appeared at Jomo's residence. Friday relayed satellite footage. Nanomaterial swarming the villa, surging in waves, their sheer volume staggering. Stark. Stephen. Stephen stared blankly for ages, Stark even longer. Nudging Stark with his shoulder, Stephen said earnestly, "Didn't you claim you're the only one on Earth who can make this stuff?" The muscles at Stark's eyes twitched violently. Yeah, he wanted to ask the same thing. Why? Stark Industries has researched nanotech the deepest and achieved the biggest breakthroughs. So how had it suddenly popped up at Jomo's place? This kid didn't even know what positive and negative poles were. Mount Himalaya. For the first time ever, the Ancient One's pupils contracted in sheer shock. Because next she saw. Ancient One saw her own magical projection shut itself off, without her noticing. Her hands dropped from behind her back, her brows snapped together, she stood stunned for 2 full seconds. She had never encountered such a thing. She was Earth's guardian, father-class mage. How could someone disable her magic projection without her sensing it? Amplifying her senses, she waved and the projection reappeared. It flickered for an instant, blank, then shut off again. This time, prepared, Ancient One felt the feedback. To her shock, her own magical aura had been bounced back. In eyes usually calm as an ancient well, a ripple of bewilderment surfaced. What is happening? Ancient One recalled the last image she'd seen. Jomo transformed as little soldier. When I saw him, I sensed no magic on him. If not magic, could it be technology? She wondered, lost as a little white rabbit in a maze. If anything in the world escaped her, it was technology. She solved every problem with magic. Her long life spanned every tech boom, leaving her no curiosity. In this field her knowledge hovered at zero, no better than a layman without a STEM degree. Yet thinking further, her puzzled brows lifted and her eyes widened. Even a tech illiterate could grasp that what had reflected back was father-class magic. From wars and news she still knew Earth's tech level. And she was certain. No technology existed that could simply bounce her aura back. It simply didn't exist. Mouth half open in astonishment, she murmured, "How can this be?" The sound of failing magic rang in her mind, she waved again at once. This time she widened the scope, looking down on the villa area from above. Everywhere else appeared normal, only that villa blurred, showing nothing. When she tried to probe deeper, predictably, the tendril was flung back. Ancient One blinked, speechless, inside the car. A few dozen seconds earlier. Stark's eyes bulged, he could have eaten someone alive. So much nanotech material, used just to coat a villa. A bike I treasure so much I won't even ride it, and you just hop on and pedal like mad. Stark howled inwardly. What a sinful waste. Why didn't he scream it aloud? Because he was numb. The truth smacked him like Pepper's slipper. Inside the villa were only Jomo and Wanda. Wanda, still in school, probably counts on her fingers for 1 + 1. Only one answer. Jomo. How could Stark forget he'd just lectured the kid on nanotech? That was the bitter pill, his own intellect steamrolled by someone else. And, Stark nearly spat blood. Steamrolled by a guy who can't even tell positive from negative poles. Who doesn't know how a tablet works? Stark was on the verge of tears. A man who can't fix a tablet can craft nanomaterials. How could he accept that? Face ashen, Stark slumped back, muttering, "This is nanomaterial." The next second he got the same jolt as Ancient One. The feed cut out. Blank. Sir, strong quantum fluctuations detected at Jomo's residence. The zone is chaotic, no survey possible. Stark stayed motionless, lifeless. But the familiar term caught Stephen's ear, quantum fluctuations. Was quantum entanglement blocking the view? Still unsure, Stephen asked, "Why is this happening?" After several calculations Friday offered her guess, Mr. Jomo appears to have deployed quantum tech, affecting the area. Ahem. This time Stark nearly coughed up real blood. Quantum tech is the generation after nano. At the current pace, Stark estimates it'll still take him more than a decade to achieve nanotech, and that's with a super genius like him leading the charge. But right now, nanotech hasn't even been created yet. And Jomo is already wielding quantum tech with ease. What the hell? A sudden cramp gripped his heart. Stark clutched his chest. Isn't he supposed to be a PE major? Do sports colleges in the East teach basic math and advanced physics instead of running, football, and basketball? If that's the case, Stark figures his IQ should qualify him for a kindergarten teaching post somewhere in the East, in the underground room. This is one of the only two downsides of turning into Little Soldier. Once transformed, Jomo feels torrents of knowledge flood his brain, but the instant he reverts, every shred of it vanishes. Little Soldier wrote down the required materials. Flash Star vanished and reappeared in a blink, bringing back odds and ends he'd scavenged from various companies. Mostly, of course, from Stark Industries. Whenever he slipped in, no one seemed to notice him, apparently tacit approval, so Flash Star grabbed whatever he saw. Following the list, Shapeshifter began fabrication according to the instructions Little Soldier had left on another slip. Bit by bit, first nano, then quantum, then other oddities, Jomo kept testing every bizarre route he could think of. Some he didn't even understand, but he followed the steps anyway. Ho ho ho, so this is what being a genius feels like. Not bad at all. Naturally, these changes leaked to the outside world. Stark watched the villa on his screen vanish, then pop back into view. Sometimes cloaked in nano, sometimes bare again. No interior sound could escape, but the camera stationed by the entrance corridor could still pick up noises from the house itself. Swish, nano coating. Swish, nano gone. BZZ, quantum warp. For a while the silent car was filled with those strange noises. He ordered the driver to turn back, then pinched the bridge of his nose, face contorted in pain. Suddenly, listening, Stark found the rhythm oddly familiar. He snapped his eyes open, body rigid. Beside him, Steven's eyes went wide as well. The next second both cried out in horror, almost in unison. That melody. Beethoven's Symphony of Fate. Hearing each other, they turned and stared. Looks like quantum's the best fit. Decision made. Little Soldier stopped tinkering, activated quantum concealment over the villa, then grabbed a wire and climbed onto the table. Facing the mirror on the table, he twisted around, using the reflection to jab at the clumsy watch on his back with the wire. Whoa, man, this is kinda complicated. Talking like this is too corny, let's switch. No good. Dang it, how the heck do ya do this thing? Internally, Jomo gave himself a thumbs up. Yep, that sounded way smoother. Meow. A yowl rang out. Jomo turned to see the big fat white cat somehow out of its corner, drooling, staring straight at him. The knowledge vanishing was drawback 1, this was drawback 2. He might get toyed with, or eaten, by something this huge. Panic struck instantly. Now I'm really screwed. Keeping his eyes on the slowly approaching cat, Little Soldier frantically poked at the clumsy watch on his back. Bzz bzz bzz. The growl of a car came from upstairs. Up close it looked like a barrier, outwardly an ordinary patch of woods. Stark had the driver roll straight in, sure enough, vision warped but the villa was still there. Knock knock knock. He strode up and pounded the door. Steven was about to remind him there was a bell when Wanda came and opened it. Click. Almost simultaneously, the same sound came from both the front gate and the underground room. Little Soldier's eyes lit up. Looks like it worked. Striding through the door, Stark craned his neck and looked around. Where's Jomo? Seeing Stark so agitated, Wanda was utterly bewildered. Had Mr. Jomo borrowed a fortune from Stark and now planned to skip the debt? Thinking of Jomo, well, Wanda didn't rule it out. She took a step back, clasped her hands behind her, pressed her lips together, and stared at the ceiling in a clear I-know-nothing pose. With his search fruitless, Stark naturally turned his attention to Wanda. In his excitement his eyes looked almost ready to swallow her whole. But before he could speak, Jomo's voice drifted over, noticeably softer than before. What do you need me for? Following the sound, Stark saw Jomo walking up from the underground room stairs. At some point he'd put on a pair of black-rimmed spectacles, and with the big white cat in his arms he looked for all the world like an intellectual. Stark hurried over, eyes wide and fixed unblinkingly on Jomo. At this moment Stark was teetering on the edge of a meltdown. Was all that just now you're doing? Jomo gave a refined smile and stroked the cat. Expecting another denial, Stark clutched his forehead, spun on his heel, and stamped. You've been lying to me, you evolved an intelligence-type ability out of me. He paused, and when he looked into Jomo's eyes there was even a hint of pleading in his own. Everything that just happened actually came from me, right? No, Mr. Stark, it all came from me. Pushing up his glasses with his other hand, Jomo kept smiling. As you can see, I'm a super genius. With that he grinned at Stark, flashing a mouthful of pearly whites. Stark froze, his brain turning to mush. Ignoring him for the moment, Jomo carried the stunned white cat toward the sofa. Watching him approach, Steven also found it hard to accept. Hold on, you did all that yourself. I mean nanotech, magnitude level tech, that sort of thing. Without relying on your superpower. Correct. Maintaining his scholar's poise, Jomo sat and looked at Steven. Yes, Mr. Steven, as I said, I'm a once-in-a-century super genius. Seeing that dazzling grin again, Steven felt an inexplicable urge to punch him. He was certain that only when Jomo flashed those big white teeth was the man showing his true feelings. But recalling Jomo's combat strength, Steven clenched his teeth. Fine, fool it. So he's mocking me. I'll just have to endure it. After this brief exchange the living room fell silent. Wanda was even more lost. Having been in the room the whole time, she still had no idea what had happened. Her gaze flitted across the three faces, trying to read the situation. When her eyes landed on Stark, she clearly saw his breathing grow rapid, his face and eyes reddening, the muscles of his jaw bulging from clenching so hard. Wanda blinked in bewilderment. What on earth was going on? He couldn't accept it. Stark simply couldn't accept it. Rather than believe this muscle-head jock who couldn't even tell positive from negative was a super genius, he preferred to think Jomo's feats came from an intelligence ability evolved out of himself. Yet that was the part Stark found even harder to swallow. He could barely accept that Jomo could evolve combat abilities from mutants. After all, gene replication or similar modern science could explain that. But intelligence? How could something like that be evolved? Suddenly Stark lifted his head, straightened his back, he'd realized something more important. Why did Jomo's gene library contain so many different abilities? It was a terrifying question, but fortunately Stark breathed a sigh of relief when he thought of his team. Whatever the case, Joe still needed teamwork. With that thought, Stark turned and walked toward Jomo. Mount Himalaya. Ancient One made an attempt, the answer left her gaze unfocused. Out here in outer space she couldn't sense Earth at all. In this state, Jomo's tech coverage extended not just over his residence but the entire Earth. Ancient One was stunned, she couldn't imagine any technology capable of erasing Earth from the universe. Could Earth's technology have reached such a level? Meanwhile, NASA and a host of major corporations were in complete chaos. The problem was the same. Every one of their satellites had lost signal. Among them, a rocket newly launched by NASA lost contact the moment it entered space. Anxious phone calls were instantly placed. When they got their answer, they stopped panicking. Because the outage wasn't limited to them, it was worldwide. That meant the fault wasn't theirs. Woohoo! Smiles returned to employees' faces, bigger than if the rocket had launched successfully. At the Daily Bugle, Boss J. Jonah Jameson stared at a photo of his astronaut son. News of the lost contact had him puffing his cigar in deep worry. Finally he bit the cigar in half, clenched his fist and declared, "It must be Spider-Man's fault." Then the chaos shifted to governments worldwide, who ordered investigations that turned up nothing. So they scrambled to contact one another, because only one answer came to mind. The aliens were attacking again. They'd blockaded the entire Earth. Their tech far surpassed humanity's, humankind had to unite. With that consensus, governments issued orders, and instantly the world went into combat readiness. Ordinary people were hit hardest. No backup comms lines, signals cut, web pages so slow a simple check-in wouldn't load. Looking out the window they saw armed troops racing down the streets. Confusion gave way to fear that spread rapidly across the globe, while inside the villa everything remained serene. Sitting beside Jomo, Stark extended his good hand. Wait. Jomo politely brushed away the arm about to drape over his shoulder. Mr. Stark, please observe social distancing. Stark was speechless. When I came in you had your arm around my neck dragging me here. That was different. Stark. Jomo stroked the cat. I'm an intellectual now. Stark suddenly wanted to punch him. He still remembered that Jomo had previously been Otto, Sun Xiaochuan, Che Guevara. Thinking of this, Stark muttered, "No idea how long you can keep up this intellectual act." Jomo glared, didn't believe he was really an intellectual. He'd even put on glasses. Noticing, Stark instantly switched tones, coughed, composed himself and said, "I think what you need most is teamwork. A single ability can't handle every powerful foe. And I must warn you, when you switch abilities there's a gap in which a strong enemy could kill you. With partners you wouldn't have to worry." His expression flipped again, Stark grinning like a salesman. Jomo didn't hesitate, he refused outright. Stark was baffled. "You don't need teamwork. If I can already use two abilities at once, why would I need teamwork?" Jomo didn't answer, he just kept stroking the big white cat. Stark couldn't figure out why Jomo kept holding onto this cat. He could tell several times that the cat wanted to leave. Realizing she couldn't join the three-way conversation, Wanda obediently headed for the kitchen. After she turned away, Stark sighed in exhaustion and changed the subject. He already knew Jomo would refuse to join the alliance again. "Then let's talk about nanotech." A dim light flickered in Stark's eyes. He hadn't been the creator, Stark figured he'd brood over that for life. On that point, Jomo answered decisively, "Sure." The dimness faded, leaving only that glimmer. Stark chuckled bitterly, this barely counted as good news. Turning slightly toward Stark, Jomo's eyes brimmed with sincerity, "How much are you offering?" Stark. Rubbing his temples, Stark raised two fingers, $2 billion in patent fees. Jomo curled his lip in disdain. Stark added, "That's $2 billion per year, plus a cut of commercial profits." Grinning from ear to ear, Jomo extended his hand. "Deal." "Hold on, my esteemed guest." Saying so, Jomo stood with the cat and headed for the underground room. He had no use for nanotech. Rather than letting it sit, he might as well cash it in. Stark's mouth twitched. "Now I'm your esteemed guest." "I knew it. You flip faces faster than pages." "Wait." Steven suddenly called after him. "I think you'll need these." Steven drew a small circle and pulled out several tomes of magic. "The sorceress said to give them to you." As he handed them over, Steven carefully added. About to refuse, Jomo thought of Wanda and took them anyway. Watching Jomo's retreating figure, Steven exhaled in relief and sat, whispering seriously to Stark, "What do you think the odds are he created nano and quantum tech without using any superpowers?" Just then, Jomo reached the kitchen. "Wanda, these magic books are for you." Stark turned to watch silently. Wanda's delighted voice rang out. "That's wonderful, Mr. Jomo, I really needed these." "How did you get them?" Jomo calmly adjusted his glasses. "Oh, I wrote them myself." Instantly, Wanda hugged the books, stars in her eyes, gazing in awe. "Really? Did they come to you because of the magic books you wrote?" "You're amazing, Mr. Jomo." At that moment Stark quietly turned back. Steven ground his teeth in silence. "I just handed you Ancient One's treasured tomes, and you claim you wrote them." "Fine." Steven faced forward again. "Looks like the odds are zero." In the underground room, Jomo picked up the nano notes while dialing the quantum field down to cover only the villa. He hadn't forgotten. Earlier the big white cat had been hunting. Then Stark arrived. In his haste he'd left it on wide. Designed like a familiar dial, the Earth crisis was instantly lifted. With the nano notes in hand, Stark naturally hurried off to test them. Still brooding that he hadn't been the creator, he was happy to get the long-coveted data, yet not truly happy. Steven left as well, figuring that gifting those Ancient One tomes had sown goodwill. There'd be chances for friendly dealings with Jomo later. Right. At the doorway Stark paused, turned, pointed at the big white cat, and asked in bewilderment, "Why have you been holding that cat the whole time?" "Oh, her." Jomo looked down, stroking the cat's head with sorrow. "She's terminally ill, no cure. I asked the vet, she doesn't qualify for euthanasia." Stark felt a pang of sadness. "So, you want to spend more time with her?" "I understand." "No." Jomo lifted his head, clenched his jaw. "I'm fetching a long blade to perform kaishaku for her." Stark. Steven. "Kill if you must. Why use the word kaishaku? Did you have to pick such a jarring term?" Bushido. After the two left, Wanda rushed over. Before she could speak, Jomo tossed the cat. With no free hands, Wanda wrapped it in magic and set it gently on the floor. Jomo had only been joking, he'd never meant to harm the cat. Once on the ground, the cat glanced back at Jomo, then fled without a second look. Jomo could practically read its mind. Fellow felines, no, house cats, who can relate? So tiny when I bit, then boom, giant. Seeing this, Wanda exhaled. I thought you really were going to kill it. Jomo strode toward the bedroom, snorting, if it ever tries to eat me again, hey, I will. Wanda was baffled. How could a cat eat a grown man? At that moment Ancient One ended her observation. She found her scrying magic useless, yet other spells worked fine. That only deepened her puzzlement. He clearly doesn't want to be watched, so what is he planning? That evening Jomo lounged on the sofa, legs crossed, leafing through a magic tome while the news announced Earth's crisis was over and humanity celebrated. A meaningful smile curved his lips. Whenever I'm in a bad mood I can just cut the global internet and stage another alien invasion. Let's see who blinks first. Name. Across from him Wanda straightened, hands on knees. Wanda. Jomo continued. Is this your first magic class? Yes, this is my first time learning magic. Jomo closed the book. Yet you're so relaxed. Doesn't look like your first time. Related to your previous job. I used to be a sorceress. Adjusting his glasses, Jomo nodded. Ah, that explains it. Wanda blinked in confusion, lost in the clouds. Didn't he already know all this about me? Seizing the pause, Wanda ventured, Mr. Jomo, what's your education level? Bachelor's degree. He practically shouted, then hastily lowered his head and opened the book. Today I'll teach you advanced magic, shadow clones. Ah, I can't see any chakra in you. You won't manage it, let's move on. Chakra. Hearing the term for the first time, Wanda figured she probably didn't have any. After flipping for a while, Jomo gave up, he couldn't show off this one. Forget it, self-study for this lesson. He set the book down, rose, and strolled off with hands behind his back. Suspicious, Wanda picked up the book and began studying on her own. As he ambled toward the bedroom, Jomo felt something was missing. Minutes later, while studying the spell, Wanda glimpsed a head poking around the corner. You're the worst class I've ever taught. With that, Jomo changed expressions and left, satisfied, now it felt right. The next few days left Jomo with nothing to do, so he lounged at home gaming and catching the news. Until one night he heard a familiar term on the broadcast. The Sokovia Accords. He yanked off his headphones and stared. That doesn't make sense. Wanda didn't blow up a building, why would it erupt? Speak of the devil. The uninvited Spider-Gwen arrived and laid out the whole story. Jomo rubbed his chin. So it's because of Rhino Man. Simple. During the Rhino crisis the government felt the hero's rescue was inadequate, and when news broke that during Sokovia the Avengers dropped a building on a volunteer, world governments united to regulate and restrain superhero activity. Hearing that old Black Panther was assassinated while speaking at the UN, Jomo nodded, exactly as he remembered from Civil War. Gwen voiced her worry. Do you think I should sign? Jomo was about to tell her no, and reflexively his mind replayed the airport battle from Civil War. Instantly he froze. This time the unlock condition had triggered. Supergiant. Airport. Autumn strips the scenery of color, and the withered leaves rustle in the cold wind. The ground's sand is lifted by the autumn breeze, striking Steven's calf, which is outlined by a tight uniform. Stark and Steve lock eyes, and at the point of contact a spark of tension erupts. The world falls silent, no one says a word. After a long pause, Stark sighs, breaking the quiet. His face, as steel-hard as his name, shows resolve, but his eyes betray a pleading look. If you leave, you know what will happen to you. Give up, Steve. Don't do anything foolish. Steve says nothing, only gripping his shield tighter. Instinctively stepping forward, a flash of pain crosses Stark's brow as he softly says, consider it my request. Steve smiles and shakes his head. After learning that Hydra has infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and the government, Tony, I no longer trust them. At this moment, both Stark's and Steve's groups wear grim expressions, eyes fixed on the opposite side, emotions tangled. For any organization, nothing hurts more than a civil war. Yet there is absolutely no room for negotiation or compromise, it's a clash of two paths. Fine. Understanding there is no wiggle room, Stark closes his eyes in pain and shakes his head gently. The next second, his eyes snap open and his helmet immediately re-encases his head. Looks like we have no choice. Stark's words fire like a starter pistol, forcing both sides into combat instantly. Just as the two sides stare each other down, ready to strike, a voice rings out from the sky. Wait a second. Four-armed Overlord and Spider-Man drop from the air onto a truck. Four-armed Overlord shouts, "Everyone, give me some respect, stop fighting." Everyone turns toward the voice at once. The newly arrived Ant-Man looks up, puzzled. Who are you? Four-armed Overlord boasts, I am one of the four emperors, red-haired Shanks. All of you, lay down your weapons. I'll appoint each of you a royal deputy on the spot. Perhaps intimidated by Jomo's confident, domineering aura, no one moves. Jomo feels delighted inside. This is exactly the protagonist's grand entrance. Gwen looks down, helplessly. Can you come down first? Can't. He refuses decisively, tightening his hold on Jomo. Watching this, Ant-Man scratches his temple in confusion. You could say he's strong. He does have an aura, probably that powerful mutant the captain mentioned. But being carried in a princess hold by Spider-Man. A 3-meter-tall hulking figure, perched in Spider-Man's roughly 1.7-meter frame. Sigh. Ant-Man feels his original filter shattered. Tap tap tap. Footsteps echo, the two squads rush toward each other and clash. Gwen looks over and says, our mission is to help Mr. Stark and keep the captain from leaving, right? I think so. Jomo finds Ant-Man and says casually. And you? Gwen finishes speaking, and Jomo leaps down, joining the fray. The battlefield erupts into chaos, with Stark and Steve as the core, fighting fiercely. Jomo, transformed into four-armed Overlord, charges straight at Ant-Man. Spotting him, Ant-Man aims at four-armed Overlord and hurls a palm-sized car. Mid-air, the tiny car expands at a visible speed, returning to normal car size just before landing before four-armed Overlord. Bang! Four-armed Overlord four hands firmly grab the vehicle. Ant-Man plants his hands on his hips, raising an arrogant eyebrow. You think that's all? The next second, an electric arrow shoots toward four-armed Overlord forehead. Puff. En route, it's blasted apart by a laser from Stark. Stark grits his teeth and shouts, I told you, big guy, you need teamwork. Shuffle. Using all four hands, four-armed Overlord rolls the car into a ball and hurls it back. Since it's like that, no more pretenses. Dual abilities, activate. Stark, locked in battle with Steve, feels the pressure gnaw at him. He also repeatedly faces surprise attacks from Falcon and Hawkeye. Steve's invited Wanda didn't show. With their numbers they should have had the advantage. But midway Stark notices he seems to be the only one fighting seriously. Vision's laser has nowhere to aim. Natasha and Hawkeye, even in close combat, still give Hawkeye a chance to draw his bow. These people all seem to be playing themselves. Bang! At that moment Stark catches a glimpse of four-armed Overlord punching Falcon into his own feet. Looking, Stark sees four-armed Overlord, back-to-back with him, taking on Bucky and Hawkeye simultaneously. Then a small drone darts toward the knee of four-armed Overlord leg. Falcon rolls onto his back, creating distance, then controls the drone for a sneak attack. Stark tries to warn Jomo, but a punch from Steve sends his head snapping back, missing the chance. Boom. When he recovers, the explosion is already in his ears. His heart sinks instantly, thinking, this is bad. You rushed ahead, just as I said you need teamwork. Looking urgently, Stark sees, Four-armed Overlord silhouette is blocked by a diamond shield. The drone's blast leaves no dent on it. Has he switched state? Puzzled, Stark thinks of the Diamond Man. But the next second, four red arms swing out from behind the shield, shattering the doubt. This deepens Stark's confusion. Diamond God of War combined with four-armed Overlord, red fists covering diamond crystals, instantly knock Bucky and Hawkeye to the ground, immobilizing them. War Machine, blocked by Wild Demon Vine and Shapeshifter, is dismantled with a light touch. Jomo strides straight to Ant-Man. Just in case, he uses Flame Wild Demon Vine to forge a prison, trapping Natasha. A quick glance shows, aside from Ant-Man, no one else can stand. Stark's eye twitches. Jomo can now select any two of his abilities and use them simultaneously. Recalling his earlier words about teamwork, Stark feels oddly sarcastic. With two abilities at will, he single-handedly crushes the whole team. What more collaboration is needed? He dashes toward Ant-Man, four-armed overlord flashing forward. Ant-Man has never seen this. He shrinks in place, then sprints at breakneck speed. You can't see me, you can't see me. He runs through the floor cracks, still babbling. Looking for a ant-sized creature while standing is indeed hard. But from the ground, eye level with the floor, it's different. Switching four-armed overlord to little soldier, the little soldier flashes and spots the fast-moving tiny figure, charging straight at it. Turning to see the pursuing little soldier, Ant-Man jumps up, terrified, a creature this big. The chasing little soldier slows, aims at Ant-Man and repeatedly lifts his leg. Wahaha, feel the terror of a giant. I'll stomp, I'll crush you. Everyone looks around bewildered, it's empty. Where are those two? Asgard. The magical aura precisely tracks little soldier and Ant-Man. Thor laughs heartily. Laughing non-stop, Thor holds his shoulder with one hand, covers his mouth with the other, and thinks that if he were on Earth, he'd side with Steve. Tap tap tap. Footsteps echo behind Thor as well. Feeling inexplicably uneasy, Thor quickly shuts off the magical artifact, and the projection vanishes. Turning, he sees the newcomer isn't his father but a warrior, and finally he relaxes. Bad news, Thor, your brother Loki has fled. Thor waves it off nonchalantly, steps forward, he's the best at escaping. Where did he go? I'll go get him back. Earth. Hearing that, Thor's stride falters, Earth again. And, the warrior's expression turns fearful, voice cautious, he stole the crown and the eternal flame. Instantly, Thor's heart stops. Loki plans to summon Flame Giant Searcher on Earth. Earth. Through the earpiece, Wanda's crying plea for help comes through. Jomo's heart also stops. How could this be my hometown? Realizing that he would be trampled by the behemoth little soldier if he continued like this, Ant-Man continued to run, seized the opportunity, reached out and tapped the controller on his arm twice, and his body instantly soared, becoming a giant in the blink of an eye. The situation reversed instantly. To the naked eye, Ant-Man couldn't see the existence of little soldier at all. Also understanding that such a small guy would not cause any harm to him, Ant-Man smiled smugly with his hands on his hips. Now, you are the little guy. Ant-Man's soaring size attracted the attention of everyone present. Stark looked around, but couldn't find Jomo. Past experience told him that Jomo should have evolved the corresponding ability at this time. But, where is he? For a long time, Stark couldn't find Jomo's figure. When Ant-Man easily reached out and picked up a plane, a guess popped up in Stark's mind for no reason. Could he have been scared away by Ant-Man? In fact, this is not without reason. Ant-Man easily picked up a behemoth like a small object, which shocked everyone, including Steve. This kind of strength. Hulk wouldn't be more than this, right? Asgard. Inside the palace, after receiving the news, Odin was so angry that his beard was about to fly. Do you know what kind of disaster Earth will encounter if the fire giant is awakened on Earth? The people who were reprimanded did not dare to raise their heads and remained silent. Father. Thor stepped forward and quickly dissuaded, the most important thing now is to find Loki. Maybe, he didn't release Searcher. Thinking about this possibility, Odin's face improved a little, but his tightly clenched teeth never loosened. The fire giant Searcher, as the protagonist of Ragnarok in the prophecy, is a being who can sink the entire Asgard. Once Searcher appears on Earth, Odin can't imagine what will happen. Suddenly realizing something, with a gloomy face, Odin smashed the eternal spear on the floor. After a crisp sound, a magic projection appeared in the palace. With just one glance, Thor and a group of heavenly palace warriors were frightened. The fire giant Searcher was waving his giant sword and chopping wildly at the surroundings. The firelight spilled down through the projection, illuminating everyone's faces. You could see that the pupils of everyone's eyes were shaking violently in fright. Except for Odin, they were all seeing the legendary fire giant Searcher for the first time. The huge body was hundreds of meters high, reaching into the sky. Just looking at it, the pressure made them unable to breathe. Thor then understood why Searcher was given the nickname Fire Giant. This is so big. Moreover, he is on Earth. The original villa was almost turned into dust the moment Searcher appeared. in a corner under Searcher's huge body. After hanging up the phone, Wanda felt that she should throw the alien in front of her to Dormammu and let him eat it. Wanda issued an anxious reprimand. Why did you release him here? Loki lowered his head, looking completely frightened, and murmured blankly, why doesn't he listen to me? I released him, he should help me rule Earth. As the saying goes, a bad person's brainstorming is not as good as a stupid person's inspiration. Loki's original intention was not like this. Landing at the villa was purely an accident. He stole the eternal flame and the crown and came to Earth to use Searcher's power to rule Earth. But he didn't expect that after Searcher was released, he wouldn't listen to him at all. The current situation also frightened him. Earth seems to be about to be destroyed by him. Understanding the ins and outs of the matter from this short sentence, Odin narrowed his eyes, his face so gloomy that water seemed to drip from it. With blue veins appearing on the back of his hand, Odin raised the eternal spear high. He knew that he didn't have much time left and should focus his main energy on passing on the throne, but the survival of Earth was at stake, and there was no other choice. If he didn't descend, Searcher would definitely destroy Earth. Just as the eternal spear was about to smash down and teleport himself to Earth, Odin's movements suddenly stopped. Wait, doesn't Earth have a guardian? At this time, Stephen was in the Sanctum Sanctorum, just standing on the roof and watching. His naked eyes could see a large number of red clouds in the distance, and the looming outline of a giant in it. Seeing this, Stephen was also frightened. The oppressive feeling brought by the huge size alone was enough to crush his heart, coupled with the outline of the giant sword waving, burning the sky wherever it went. Stephen is sure. This is the second most terrifying crisis besides Dormammu descending on Earth. Stephen, who knew something about mysterious existences, was frightened, let alone the ordinary people of New York City. Looking at the huge outline in the sky, everyone felt as if they had come to a Hollywood movie, producing a sense of unreality. Everyone was so frightened that they couldn't speak and stood there motionless. Until the outline became larger and clearer. The scorching heat wave hit their faces, and the tall buildings in the distance in their sight kept collapsing, and car alarms rang from that end to this end. The screams made the citizens recover, and they screamed and fled in panic. Searcher is moving towards the city. Quickly glanced at the fleeing crowd on the ground, Wang's voice was obviously trembling. Should we do something? Stephen wanted to make a handsome comeback, but he felt powerless, his mind was blank, and he couldn't say anything. He couldn't think of any way he could deal with it. The next moment, Ancient One's voice came from behind, pulling him out of the abyss. You just stay here. As if seeing a life-saving straw, the two quickly turned their heads. I saw that Ancient One had already put on her robes, draped in a cloak, and was ready for battle. When he saw the eye of Agamotto on Ancient One's chest, Stephen's smile froze on his face. Could it be that the threat brought by such a mere giant has reached the point where mages need to use gems to solve it? The Civil War is over, and Stark is sitting in a private plane, following Steve. Searcher's appearance brought extreme crisis to the entire New York City, and such a huge figure could not escape Friday's monitoring. Even though he had received the news and was mentally prepared, Stark was still shocked when the picture appeared and took a breath of cold air. Searcher's size was so large that he could only break through the clouds to see his head. With the blessing of flames all over his body, he is simply a walking sun. Seeing Searcher, Stark instantly felt that the giant ant-man who had scared Jomo away just now was nothing. Stark frowned and said nothing. How should this be dealt with? Friday reported telepathically. The military is considering using nuclear bombs to solve him. Stark was speechless and rubbed his forehead. Path dependence. Stark had reason to suspect that if a mutant got out of control one day, the military would directly use nuclear bombs. Just as Stark was seriously thinking about what could be used to deal with this behemoth besides nuclear bombs. Friday enlarged a figure in the picture, instantly making Stark lean forward. All his attention was attracted. This is Jomo. Looking at the flash fire man in the picture, Stark was stunned. In addition to Stark, Jomo, who appeared at this moment, also attracted the attention of Odin and Ancient One. The same question arose in the hearts of the three. This is not an enemy he can deal with at all. What is he doing here? Flying to Searcher's face, Jomo was so angry that his whole body was on fire. He remembered why he was so worried about the villa, because there were more than 3 million yuan of stolen money hidden inside. It hasn't been laundered yet, and it's been burned. Searcher, whatever. Pay me. Of course, Jomo knew that it was difficult to ask such a thing for money. So his main purpose is to try. Searcher, how many moves can he withstand from Super Giant? Thanks for watching.